What it do, what it do, what it do. Welcome to part two of the interview with Coach Melvin Hunt. This is part two. Definitely check out part one to add some context to the whole thing. I'm gonna give a short recap. Y'all know I'm long-winded, but that's just how I be sometimes. Um, long career of coaching, long career of coaching. From very the ground floor by being a video coordinator for the Houston Rockets and worked away to scout, then becoming on the bench as an assistant with under Coach Rudy T. Basketball heads know who that is. Did an outstanding job. Actually coached some of the greats. Obviously, you know about Katino Mobley, Steve Francis, Yao Ming. So he did that. We talked about that and how his transition over going to the Cleveland Cavaliers with Coach Mike Brown. He was part of the staff that led the Cleveland to their berth to the NBA Finals in '07 versus the Spurs. So obviously, he coached LeBron James. Went on then with the Los Angeles Lakers, my squad. I was super amped then because y'all know that's my squad. And he actually that was his squad too, but he had to keep me professional, you know what I'm saying? But that was his squad too on the low. And obviously, he coached the late great Kobe Bryant. So gonna keep on going here. So we're gonna go and obviously he went on with the Denver Nuggets. Yeah, there we go. Like I said, technology is great when it works, but the devil is a lie. So yeah, under Coach Carl. Then obviously, once Coach Carl resigned, the job was given to Brian Shaw. You all know Brian Shaw, long career in the NBA in terms as a player and as a coach. So Melvin worked side by side with Brian Shaw. For those who do not know, this thing is tripping again. This thing keep falling. Hold on a second. So Brian Shaw is a coach. See, what we not gonna do, Devil, what we not gonna do is mess this up. That's what we not gonna do. See, yesterday we had some good. Well, the day before yesterday, we had some good conversations. We're gonna get a little deeper today, so I want to make sure everything is everything. Just trying to bring everybody up to speed. Like I said, Brian Shaw became the coach, and Melvin worked side by side with him. So I'm gonna bring him on, and we're gonna kind of take it from there. Bring it on in now. Hey, how you doing there, Melvin?
I'm doing great. How you doing, Jay?
I'm tripping, man. I tell you, man, I got hot in here, had chamber shirt. It's all things going on. I said, nah, it ain't going down. And see, one thing about me, I don't like to do a whole lot of editing because I like stuff organic or real. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes you got to edit, but it is what it is. So kind of gave a quick little recap of just some of the things we went over. But we're going to start here. So George Carl resigns. B. Shaw becomes the coach. First season. How'd your guys do his first year as head?
We struggled. We struggled. We were. It was funny. We had a good squad, but um, we were introducing some things that were so foreign to them. B. Shaw and Coach Carl were like night and day as far as their approach to the game, and so we were rebuilding, and guys were a little bit in rebellion to start. Um, First time head coach. He was wanting to build it the right way, and so we struggled a little bit. We struggled some, and truthfully, like the top of our roster was decent, was solid, but really and truly, a lot of the guys that was on that team were quickly out of the league.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess they said we're gonna bring them back. So be sure you guys, I guess, obviously may have had some more continued struggles because I guess they decided to go in a different direction with Brian Shaw. So at this point, how did they, because you become the interim coach, like the last of 23, 25 games, whatever. How did that come about in terms of the conversation of you being informed?
Well, it's funny, first of all, B. Shaw did not get fired. It,
Okay.
it was truly, truly. This is one that I lived. He he decided to step down, and they didn't
Oh,
want him to.
really?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah. There was a time early on during that second year where he wanted to. He was really like, we didn't use the resources, and they didn't. It was the beginning of the son, young Cronky. Um, he was just taking over, as the day to day guy. Stan Kroenke, his dad, was the one who
Yeah.
was really running things. And this is his first year really running it, really doing it himself. But he still had to get permission. It's kind of like
Yeah.
when your boys come to the crib and you want to go somewhere, but you can't go until you ask your mama and your
Yeah.
daddy, and then they at work,
Yeah.
and you better not call them at work. So you got to
Right.
wait. Well, a lot of times that's what it was with Josh, and that was a little bit of a frustration for B. Shaw. B. Shaw,
Yeah.
he came in with his championship rings.
Yes.
My
Yes.
man knew what it was about. Long time pro, not just a he was a pros pro, and so some of the stuff wasn't up to par. Even the way we were, Danye, even the way we were using some of our resources, it frustrated B. Shaw. We were kind of cheap. Well, there's no kind of. They still are kind of cheap. They're
Okay.
one of the teams in the league that's very cost efficient. They run a tight ship financially.
Mhm.
And so, with
Okay.
all that being said, you think about it, B. Shaw was, used to winning championships, and they paid, you paid to get the best players to come to LA,
Yeah.
and that was a frustration for him. We missed on some deals, but B was he was going to work through it, and man, it got to a point where he just couldn't do it. He was like, I can't do this. He was frustrated. He knew it wasn't a good mark for him, and even the day when he stepped down, we're all sitting in a room, and they're bringing us in one by one, letting guys go. And so
Wow.
I'm thinking they about to lay the hatchet down.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there. I'm telling the young coaches, hey, be careful what you say. Be wise with how you approach this. So
Yeah.
don't be emotional. I'm taking them through the whole deal because I've been through it. I've been through it. So they call me in. Yeah, I walk right around the corner into the video room, and B. Shaw sitting there. He's sitting there chilling. Ain't no anger, there's no animosity. He's sitting there chilling. And they said, I'm just thinking they're about to fire me. And they say, well, Melvin, we want you to take over as a head coach. I said, excuse me? And this is a quote. I said, I don't know if I want it.
Hmm.
I said, because this is dysfunctional. I said, we
Yeah.
know we know what the problem. I'm looking at B. Shaw. I'm like, we know what it is. And they were like, we're kind of going back and forth talking with the general manager. And then B. Shaw he said, man, Mel, you got to take it. And I said, what you mean I got to take it? He said, you got to take it. Who else going to take it? Because, there was nobody else on staff that had experience. They had fired Lester. Lester Connor was his right hand.
Hmm.
They let Lester go. So there's really nobody else there but me. And so I said, you know what? I said, y'all need to give me some time. I need to call my wife. And I said,
Yeah.
I need to pray about it. Yeah, when I tell you, I walked into my office, I sit down, I call Carmen, I'm talking to her, I'm on the phone maybe a minute, and I look at the ticker. They already got it going across the ticker.
Wow.
They got it going across the ticker. Melvin Hunt accepts is going to be the interim head coach. And I mean, I had them really over a barrel, man. I could have just said and embarrassed them even more.
Yeah.
But no, because I was dead serious about. I did not. Man, we had some issues. We had some real issues.
Yeah.
Um, but I came back in, I came out, and I looked at him like, like, why is this on the ticker already? And so, but I ended up taking it, and this is a game day.
Oh, wow.
This
Who you guys play that day?
We played Milwaukee with Jay Kidd. Jay Kidd
Okay.
was the coach. March 3rd. It was the day after my mother-in-law's birthday,
Wow.
and the day after my wedding anniversary.
Oh wow.
So hey, yeah, I'm sitting in there and I do my first interview. I wish I had pulled up the picture. I got cameras, mics everywhere in front of me, and they asked me the question. They said, "Well, what did you think about today?" I said, "Well, I woke up this morning just wanting to make sure I said happy birthday to my mother-in-law." That's
Yeah.
my biggest concern for the day.
Yeah. Now.
Now I got this, and so it was, it was a really good day, but it was a hard day because I had to get a group of guys who had underachieved. They weren't being professional. They were young guys. That's a great picture too. But I was teaching. You see how those guys are looking at me in that picture. We were
Mhm.
teaching them how to be pros, and I want to give B Shaw his dap. He did an incredible job. He was so much better than just a regular coach. He cared about them as young men. He was giving them history, the history of
Yeah.
the game. He was giving them history for his community. He was giving them American history. The brother was like, you could tell he really cared, and you could tell that he had prepared to be a head coach way in advance. He had been being a head coach for years. He just hadn't gotten his opportunity. But
Right.
he was great. I'm telling you, he was terrific, man. And that was hard for me because I remember I got the guys together. The first little huddle, I brought them together on the practice court. All this is happening at 10 o'clock. We got 9:45 shoot around.
Okay.
This is all happening right then, and it got real emotional for me because I said two really good men, Lester Connor, another good man. I said two really, really quality men just lost their jobs because
Yeah.
we do our jobs. And
Right.
the boys looked, and I said, I got emotional. It bothered me. And I said, but I tell you what, two things we're gonna do. And they kind of looked, they didn't know where I was going, but you know me. I said, two
Mhm.
things we gonna do. I said, we're gonna have fun. I said, we're gonna have a good time. And I said, and the second thing is we're gonna be pros. And they looked at me. And I said, and if you're not with that, you can leave right now. I said, but that's what we're gonna do. Man, we had so much fun. We got better. We played well together. Um, we could have won a lot of games, but I'll say it this way: they didn't want us to win games.
Okay.
When we that first night we played J Kidd, he played J Kidd, and one of our struggles was we couldn't score. But shoot, I knew how to score. I
Right.
knew how to get buckets. I knew who could get buckets on that team, and I knew who to turn loose. Well, we smacked J Kidd though. I mean, we smacked him. Played well. In fact, in the first week or so of the job, the the number one team in the East was Atlanta with Budenholzer. My,
Yeah.
my boy Sag Nasty was over there. Darvin Ham was an
Darwin. Yeah. Shout out to Darwin.
and his wife came to the game. It was in Denver, and his wife and my wife are pretty cool. They came to the game. They the number one team in the East. We 30 pieced them. I mean, handed it out. I mean, and it wasn't anything. It was just one of those deals where I cut them loose on some things, allowed them to have some freedom. There's always a honeymoon period, but they
Yeah.
played fair. I sacrificed some defense. I hated doing that, but I knew we needed to play faster. We need to have fun, so we did that. And yeah, like 2 days later, we beat them by 30. A day and a half, 2 days later, whatever it was, we get Golden State. Golden State comes into town. They number one in the West. 20 pieced them. I mean, smacked them.
Mhm.
They couldn't run with us. We got people in foul trouble. They're players. They're meaningful players. We got them in foul trouble and ran them out the gym. So we were rolling. I think we were like 4-0 or 4-1 to start, and that thing was rolling. We go into set. We went into Minnesota. The late great Flip Saunders. What a
Yeah.
blessing to compete against him. We smacked them on the road. I mean, we rolling, and then you start getting those. How do I say it? You start getting those little meetings. Hey, we got to make sure we, the draft is coming up. It was,
Yeah. So they're trying to jockey for position for the
yeah,
draft. You're winning too many games now.
yeah, and the whole deal was to put a little luster, to put a little shine on our players. We wanted, our guys, they were a little beaten down. Honestly, they were a little beaten
Mhm.
down, and we gave them some freedom and allowed them to kind of hoop, and they embraced it, and they knew me. The
Yeah.
guys knew me. I'd been with them.
So when they say, "Hey," were they trying to tell you to to go deeper into your bench
No, I
to play?
was. I was. Yay. Them brothers was I tipped my hat to every one of them brothers. I was going deep into the bench. They was bringing it. They they were playing inspired basketball. It was cool. I'd love to say that it was me and not bragging. Maybe I had a little something to do with it, but whatever the case, favor. I don't know protection. Them
Yeah.
brothers were hooping. They played together. They played hard. I simplified things. I really simplified things. Um, I was definitely giving them a short term fix. We
Mhm.
didn't have a training camp. I
Right.
mean, you get the job one day. My
Yeah.
APO package was way different because I just got the job. So
Right.
a lot of the stuff I dreamed about doing I mean, I did. I had some
Yeah.
hoop love in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah. For sure. For sure.
yeah,
Who
it,
you
it was
love? Yeah.
it was an opportunity for me to let those guys cut loose, and they trusted me, and we were rolling. So they couldn't get me with going deep in the bench because I was. And
So how would they? Well, how did they frame it in terms of for you, like to pull back the reins? I mean, how did they frame it?
see, that tells me right. I know you know the game because it's hard to do that. I mean,
Right.
how do you do that? Well,
Without point shaving.
our point statement. Well, they started taking my toys away. They started taking
Okay.
my toys away. We get ready to go to New Orleans. I'm hyped. I'm going back to the crib, going home to Louisiana, and we get on the flight. I mean, we literally are just taking off. We hadn't gotten to 10,000 feet. We're on the charter, and the trainer comes in, sits at the table. I'm sitting there going over my notes, and he says, "Hey, coach," he said, "You're not gonna have Gallinari tomorrow." It's my starting power forward.
Right.
I said, okay. He playing 4 and 3. I said, okay, cool. I said, I mean, I appreciate it because I'm writing out my little sub chart, my little rotation. And I write Wilson Chandler. And he said, hey, about Wilson. Yeah, you're
Wow.
probably not gonna have Wilson tomorrow. I said, Wilson played the same position. He said, no, we want to rest him. He's had some
Wow.
illness. And it's the end of the season, so they want to protect their assets. I
Yeah.
get it. So I was like, okay, okay, okay. And Fareed, not gonna have Fareed either. I
Wow.
said, so I said, so who do I have at that position? They may have given me Darrell Arthur. I think I had Darrell
Okay.
Arthur, and we had brought in a guy from
That's the kid from Kansas, right?
Kansas, exactly, pick and
Okay.
pop shooter. He's a pick and pop shooter, and every now and then I'd have him roll just to
Hmm.
mess him up, and he would
Yeah.
get dunks. But I had a couple guys. I had a guy from France, and then they started giving me 10-day guys on 10-day
Okay.
contracts. So we could look at them. But yay, them brothers was coming in because I framed it to them like this. I said, look, I said, yeah, we want to win, we want to play well. I said, but this is about you.
Yeah,
I
get your
said,
money.
you're interviewing.
Yeah,
I said, bro,
get
you interviewing.
showcase. You're trying to
So
showcase them,
you got 30, you got 29 other teams watching. I said, man, do what you got to do. And
right?
so those dudes appreciate. I got Ian Clark. I don't know if you remember Ian Clark. Ian Clark was a little guard.
Hmm.
He played for a couple of years, and he played in New Orleans for a second, but he played at Golden State. I
Okay,
got him first on a 10-day. Yeah,
okay.
I can't make this up. It's like picking up a dude at pickup. Like dude walk in the gym, yo man, you got your shoes? It was one of them. He came in on a game day. I had never met this young brother. I met him at his hotel. We had lunch. I think we had grilled cheese sandwiches, grilled cheese and soup. I met him at his hotel at like 2 in the afternoon, 1 or 2 in the afternoon. Dapped him up, kind of gave him a little overview what I was going to allow him to do. I said, "You're playing minutes tonight." Man, that brother came in and balled because he was focused. He knew what it was. Um, and my attitude was, "Hey man, we're gonna take advantage of this. We're
This
not.
time, right,
We're gonna
right.
take advantage of it." So they took my toys away, which was it made me really coach. In fact, one night, let me finish that New Orleans game. Monty Williams was the head coach.
Okay. Okay.
Well, we took him to double or triple overtime. Dude, I had my little ATO in the game package. Yay! Normally you have like two, maybe three plays on your card, on your little card you keep. Dog, I had like 6 to 8 ATOs I had to run. And then I'm running out of players because dudes was getting in foul trouble, fouling out.
Right.
Dog, it was one of the greatest experience. I talked to Monty about it about 2 or 3 weeks ago. His son, his son committed here, so Monty
Okay.
and we laughed and joked about it because he had to go deep in his package, and I went deep in mine, and we ended
Yeah.
up beating them in double overtime. But they would take away your players and then say try to win.
So, yeah, this is not my notes, but I'm just thinking. Obviously, you've been at this point. You're a veteran in the league at this point. So, and I know you know. Obviously, you hit a term. It's a business. Obviously, you hit it. Now, did you get a? Let's see, how can I say? Did you really say, yeah, this is a business because your role has changed? Like you said, they said, did you look at it like, man, really? I mean, even though you still want to go forward, but did you look at it as a business even more after what they were doing?
When you get between the lines, as you know, the competitive spirit in you, it just kicks in.
Yeah,
There may be business, but they're gonna have to remind me.
yeah.
You have to remind me because I was focused on people in basketball. That's why I do it. I love people, I love the game, and so no matter what was going on business wise, they were going to have to. I mean, take everything from me because even whatever I had, I was going
I was
to
going to use yes,
to win and to put their best foot forward. And I'm glad I did because I was one day like the general manager at the time, he came up to him and he said it was cool. It was kind of a backhanded compliment. He didn't realize it, but he said, Mel, I knew you could coach, but I didn't know you could like coach. And it
yeah.
was kind of funny he said that. Um, but it gave me an opportunity to kind of do the things I already knew how to do. Um, but it kind of caught some people off guard, and it gave me a little chance. It was a really good opportunity. I wish that I could have had the opportunity longer. So that one we could have I could have installed things, but
Yeah.
all in all, man, it was a blessing. It was a super blessing, and it was a blessing for like the organization. They were very very thankful that I did it.
Right, because it really could have completely blew up had you just not taken the job. It could have really blew. I mean, yeah, it could have really been bad to the point. Now, yeah, because like I said, so you guys in the season, you're interviewed. So you had a formal interview to be there. How many interviews they give you?
I ended up doing um,
Okay,
two interviews.
okay. Now, um, we kind of talked about this off script. So when they ask you in terms of like your staff, let's go right there.
That's a unique place for any guy, especially when you're trying to get a job and you're not just interviewing just because there's certain things you don't want to share, but you need to share. Like you talk about your staff. Sometimes you talk about a
Yeah.
staff interview, they come in and they'll hire somebody else and swoop up the guys that you wanted. A lot of times, coaches don't like leaving their
Hmm.
information. It used to be everybody had a book, and then their coaching book, and their philosophies, and then it went from that to DVDs. You had a DVD, then it went to PowerPoint presentations. Where you showed them your vision, where you see
Yeah.
the organization going, all those things. Well, a lot of coaches, the veteran coaches, they won't leave anything. They take up their handouts. They take
To
this
yeah.
is just viewing purposes
This
right now.
this 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 just for the meeting.
Yeah,
Just
this for the meeting. But when you're a first time head coach, wanting to be a head coach, you have to leave stuff.
you got it right.
And so I left some things with them. I was formal. I took a formal approach with them, and I killed it. That's what they told me. They said I killed it. Um, I really thought that they were going to end up offering me the job. I think God spared me from that. but I thought they were going to offer me the job. So, I went through the process. They asked me about my staff. It was funny. My agent had talked with me um, months before when everything first went down. My agent talked with me and said, have you been hearing rumors?" And one of the rumors was about Michael Malone. One of the rumors was about Michael Malone and
Right.
Boogie Cousins. He was in Sacramento. He was Malone and the general manager at the time, Pete D'Alessandro. Pete was
Excuse me one second, Mel.
yep.
Excuse me 1 second.
Go right ahead.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Gotcha.
Well, there was a rumor that my agent had heard. He said the word is that this job is Mike Malone's, and um, they're going to bring in. They're going to. It's a three-part deal. They're going to bring in Boogie Cousins and Michael Malone because they got along so well in Sacramento. They were like really good together. I mean, like really good together. And when they fired Michael Malone, Boogie Cousins was upset. But they were
Okay.
in those two, and then their general manager, Pete D'Alessandro, a good friend of mine, they were going to bring in all three of them together. And so I said, man, I said, I'm just trying to win. I'm trying to win practice tomorrow. I want
Right. You ain't got. Yeah. You.
none of that.
Yeah. Right.
And two out of the three things happened. Pete D'Alessandro ended up coming to Denver, obviously Michael Malone, and they couldn't get a deal done for Boogie. They had a deal that they thought was going to be done, but they wouldn't. They just wouldn't agree to it. And so, there may have been some truth to that. I couldn't worry about that. What I was doing was, I was trying to do all that I knew to do. Uh,
Right.
but they did ask me about Michael if I would hire Michael Malone in my interview. And Mike and I go back years. We were together in Cleveland for 5 years, um, and good friends. And when that came up, I didn't think anything of it. But I was trying to be a little coy about who I would hire.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't want to just throw it all out there. But I handled it the way I needed to handle it. But that was a weird question, especially hindsight, looking back at it. Man, it kind of threw me off.
Yeah. So obviously, yeah, like I said, I was feeling some good kind of way, but that's but that's something else though. But hold up, this is something else. We ain't got to stay on this long. But a name you mentioned, a cat who I always thought had game, and I wanted somehow him to end up, with my squad, Wilson Chandler. I thought Wilson Chandler was one of the most underrated players, and I'm gonna say I think in the history of the game. And like nobody, he just that dude just knew how to score, man. He had a nice body. What he played for three, he played a little four. I mean, so tell me about Wilson Chandler, man.
Man, fun dude, really good dude. First of all, was he Kalamazoo, Benton Harbor? Where
So
is he?
yeah, yeah,
Right around there? Hey, I'm talking about like quality dude. I mean, smart dude. Really, really reserved. Crazy athlete. But I mean, like you talked about his body, big, strong. He was like he's the today 3-4. Big, strong. Would go up and jump through you and dunk you,
yeah.
and then was athletic enough to go over you if he needed to. Man could shoot it,
To shoot it, yeah,
shot it well, and a nice
yeah,
3-point shot. Could go off the dribble. Just had all of it. Hey, and defensively, stud.
yeah.
Pride in
Good.
his defense. But now I'm gonna put his kryptonite out there. And brother
What's that?
showed me when I was interim, the one thing I wouldn't let Wilson do, that brother can't take the ball out of bounds for me ever.
Really?
Man, I tell you, we used to laugh about it. Me and Will, I said, I tried to put him in those positions because he had size. I'm like, he can see over if they put a big over the ball. If I'm ever in a tight spot, I know he's athletic, big enough to throw it over the top. Man, I couldn't do it. That brother, that was not his gig. He he didn't have that mental clock where or something. He would hold that ball. I mean, I'm telling you, it was remarkable to see. You like, Like it hurt me one game. I was like, oh, I can't do this no more.
Yeah. So he came over from New York and then in the Mellow deal, right?
The Melo deal. Yep. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Good player.
Yeah. And just real quick,
Mm.
Mello, you want to get some thoughts on Mello real quick?
Hooper. Hey man, people don't understand like this, he's not he was never a prima donna when I was around him. He was a hooper. He wanted to practice every day. He was like the opposite of the AI quote, practice.
Yeah.
When that brother came to practice, he wanted to hoop every single day. He play ones, he cheat. Like I play ones with him. You play ones with him, and man, it'd be three of us, and I may score a couple. Man, he started fouling. He was man, he loves to compete, loves to hoop. Um, his son was, just a little bitty dude. He's a hooper
Yeah.
now, real hooper
Yeah. Right.
now.
Right.
But like he would play all day. I mean, love the game. And here's a quick one. I know you appreciate. Coach Carl, we in the huddle, and him and Coach Carl used to go like this.
Mhm.
You know, Melo's approach was different than Coach Carl was so old school and regimented, and Melo just wanted to hoop, man. He didn't want to skip steps, but he just wanted to hoop.
Yeah.
So we're in the huddle. We're playing against Chicago at home. We might be down one or it's tie game. George walks into the huddle with the board. He starts drawing up the play. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. Chauncey's on the team. I think Kenyon was in the game. Kenyon Martin. He's drawing it up, and he said, Mello, you're gonna go here. He got Mello as a decoy. Mello drinking his Gatorade. He looked at the boys on the bench. Mello looked right at coach and said, man, I ain't doing that. I mean, he said it so late in the timeout that we couldn't come up with a plan B. So the horn go off, and the five guys in the game start walking out, and Melo starts talking to him, and Chauncey's talking. They're all talking, and they come to an agreement because they trusted Mel.
Yeah.
They go out there, take the ball out of bounds. I'm just kind of looking. Take the ball out of bounds, slap the ball. The others go away. Melo pops out, catches it. That patented Melo jab, gives him the jab, shoots it, and shot clock goes off. Bucket, we win. Crowd goes crazy. The normal regular fan has no idea the chaos that they just witnessed.
They just witnessed, right?
We walk in the back, and I'll never forget it. Stacey Augman was on our staff.
Mm.
And Stacey, played in the league.
Yeah.
He's a young in coaching, but he's been around. And Stacey's like, Mel, I'm sorry. We're going to have to talk about this. We're going to have to talk about this tomorrow. So
Yeah.
we enjoyed the win. We get to coaches meeting. We're all sitting there. Stacey there early. He's sitting there. Hey, yeah, he got his pad. He got his pen. He like, he gonna have to tell me something today.
So, right.
So we're sitting there at the table. Coach Carl comes in, and Stacey says, "So we ain't gonna talk about
We're gonna act like that just didn't happen.
it, like that didn't happen." And so Coach knew exactly what he was talking about. He's like, Coach, I'm young in coaching.
I'm trying to get right. Absolutely.
Talk to me. Coach said, Stace, listen here. When you got great players make great plays. Who we got up next?
Yeah. He said, I ain't going no further than that. Look. He said,
Stace was like, man. But it was real. It was real. And like that was the good and the bad of Coach Carl. I mean, he gave guys freedom, and he loved the back and forth. He loved to be the adversary. He used it sometimes to a fault. Like I mean, he made me hot a couple times. Like I was like hot, like Tallulah hot. Like I'm ready for it's whatever. And because he wouldn't always explain it, but then he would always kind of afterwards kind of let you know it was always a method to his madness, but sometimes it would frustrate you. And like him making Melo the decoy, at home. Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, we ain't gonna get Shout out to Coach Carr. But we can give him that much airtime here. I'm just, but it's all good. So talk to me about, okay. At this point, you say you're going up. Mike, you found out Mike's going to get the gig. Yearly, but you also told me you spoke to God about this job. And what did God say about this job?
Oh, I've been praying about it, because I didn't want anything more than I wanted him, and that's hard when it's something that you really want.
Yeah.
But I was trusting God, and so one morning, man, it's just like probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. It was like God tapped me on the shoulder out my sleep. I sat straight up in the bed. My wife was next to me. She was asleep. Sat right up in the bed, and it was just as clear as day. It was this job isn't for you. And I kind of nodded my head like old boy when he was talking to Sunshine from Harlem Nights. And he's
Okay.
like, yeah. hey, hey, when he said,
like
yeah.
like he feel like he made the right decision.
Hey,
Listen, would you stop? I'm trying to conduct something here. Oh Lord have mercy. That is
but
crazy.
you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking
Hey,
about.
hey, and I mean, I knew I was like, yeah, I did the right thing. Seriously, and
Yeah.
I went back to sleep. I was cool. And like a week later, when stuff happens, the Holy Spirit will bring it back to your remembrance.
Yeah.
And as soon as they said we're going in a different direction, the Holy Spirit was like, made it calm for me. I was cool. I dapped them up. I went down the elevator, and thank God I did, because if I wouldn't have had peace about it, who knows how I would have responded, reacted. So I
Right.
come out of the elevator, and there's my man
Right.
Mikey Mo is right there. I come out of the elevator and we dap up, yo, what's up, what's up? And I go, oh, oh, oh. And he looks at me like, oh, because
Yeah.
he knew the meeting had just happened. And I was like, hey man, do your thing, bro. So
Yeah.
fast forward, I go downstairs, I jump in my car, my son's with me. We're halfway, not even halfway home, man. I'm driving home, and I get a call from Rick Carlisle,
Wow.
and Rick is like, "This is how crazy this stuff links together." Michael Malone was, he kind of gave the Nuggets an ultimatum. He was like, "Look, y'all dragging y'all feet. Y'all need to figure out what you want to do." He said, "Because if you guys don't know by whatever time it was, he said, I'm going to take a job with Dallas with Rick Carlisle, as his associate head coach." He said, "So I need to know." He said, I don't want to get left out in the cold."
Right.
And so that's how Rick called me, because he knew Rick. I actually played Rick when I was the head coach, and we had promised each other that we were going to work together someday. So Rick calls me. He's like, "Man," he said, "I just got the word that Malone got the job." He said, he just knew I got the job. He said he had been telling people,
Yeah.
that I was getting the job, and Rick has a nice pulse, of the coach. He's
Oh,
the
right.
president of the Coaches Association. Rick was like, "I thought you were getting the job," and I was like, "Nah." I said they went a different direction with Malone, and I said, "I'm just gonna see what's up." And he was like, "You want to come to Dallas?" And so
Yeah.
I couldn't just answer that, so I kind of tap danced a little bit, because by the time I got home, Alvin Gentry from the Pelicans.
Yeah.
Uh, Alvin was still on staff with Golden State. They were in the finals in Cleveland. Alvin is calling me. Literally, I saw him on the TV while they were messing around before the game. They had an open shot.
Yeah.
Alvin's at half court with Chauncey Billups talking about me on the phone. I'm talking to him on the phone, and I'm looking at him on the screen, on the wires, because he was there for their game, but he was still
Yeah.
trying to get me to come to New Orleans. Well, long story short, I ended up going to Dallas. It was just a better situation, from
Okay.
my career.
So now we're going to all this. So now you're coaching with Rick Carlisle and the Dallas Mavericks.
Yep.
Now, was this Luca's rookie year?
No,
It
I,
wasn't. Okay.
I didn't get it was the end of Dirk,
It was
actually.
the end
It
of
was
Dirk. Okay.
it was the end of Dirk. I was with Dirk. What? Well, all three of those seasons I had Dirk. He was in,
Okay.
I was in Dallas 3 years, and we got to the playoffs my first year, and then the other years they never wanted to say it, but we were rebuilding, and
Okay.
it's funny. when I was there, we drafted Dennis Smith Jr.,
Yeah.
really athletic kid.
Yeah, from
Uh,
Fayetteville.
yep, Fairfield,
Yeah.
exactly. And we brought in Wes Matthews, with
Yeah.
Chandler Parsons. We were Darren Williams was on that first year. We had a really good team, but we got injured at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, D. Will was with us, um, but we played the first round, and he was so beat up, man. The
Yeah.
first round we played against OKC with Russ and KD,
Hmm.
and they beat us in five, but we were hurt. I mean, we were really. I mean, like when I say it was our bench, I bet we had in our top eight, we probably only had four dudes.
Oh
Maybe
wow.
maybe maybe four dudes playing in our top eight, and so they beat us in five. But we fought to get that one game was great for us because we were just beat up. We were just beat up, and so I was there 3 years, and one of the mistakes I made, and I love telling this, when I got there, I was so close. I was so close to being a head coach. I had just been a head coach, and it proven, and everybody knew that I was capable, and I had all that going for me. And I took the job in Dallas, because of the infrastructure of the city of Dallas. Was great for my family, the
Yeah.
schools, and all that was. We still have our house in Dallas, so
Okay.
it just made sense. But I did all that, and then the other thing, selfishly, I was like, Rick Carlisle can help my career.
Yes.
When I got there, the whole thing was, I was like, I said, I'm gonna be here a year. I really didn't want to buy anything to live because I was like, I'm only gonna be here a year because I know, jobs gonna come open. I was one of the hottest coaches in the league. And they did a little survey. I was ranked the number two best assistant coach in the league behind Lawrence Frank, who wasn't no assistant coach. He had been a head coach, but L.
Yeah.
Frank was,
Yeah.
he was
Right.
voted, and then it was me. So I kind of got ahead of myself. Um, when I pray, I always say I don't want anything more than I want God.
Hmm.
Well, I kind of got ahead of myself during that time. I kind of said, you know what, God, Rick Carlisle is going to get me. Rick Carlisle is going to help polish me off and get me ready to be a head coach.
Yeah.
And
Rick Carlisle
Rick
is.
Carlisle,
Yeah.
yeah,
Rick Carlisle is. Yeah.
yeah,
I see what you're saying.
yeah, and it was it was
Yeah.
it was great for me to live that, uh, because after that first year, there were jobs open, but I didn't chase after them. I thought that he would have shoved me out there.
Hmm.
Um, and he didn't, and that just wasn't his style at the time. He didn't even have a coaching tree at the time. Look at that. Yeah,
Hmm.
coach didn't really have a coaching tree. Um, and,
Okay.
and it was really cool for me because I got a chance to really, really pour into Rick. What
Okay.
time is that? We text each other 2 nights ago. Um, I got a chance to pour into Rick and kind of tell him, yo, you're the man.
Yeah.
You can help guys. A phone call from you makes a
Okay.
difference.
Gonna carry a lot of weight. Yeah.
Okay, and so I went through a lot with our staff. It's like Jamal Mosley, head coach for Orlando, he was
Hmm.
with us. Um,
Okay.
and Steven Silas, he took my place when I left, but he got a job. And so I told Rick, I said, man, you got to help these guys. I said, you got to, they're ready. Because he asked me one day, he says, Jamal Mosley ready? I said, he been ready.
Right.
Yeah. So he gave him more responsibility. And I was trying to let him know, no, you got really good coaches over there. And like Rick is so cool. I mean, he's weird and quirky. He'll be the first one to tell you, but when it's all said and done, the dude, he's a good dude. Like I watched a clip of him the other day. He was showing a play that he put in and they scored. It was sweet, a lot of action, a lot of movement. And the first thing he said was, man, he said, I can't even remember, but one of my assistant coaches, they're the ones who put that play in. He's giving love, he's giving dap
Yeah.
to his guys, and he didn't always do that. Like he didn't even want guys talking to the media,
Okay.
uh, and he kind of grew from it. So I knew that my time spent there, in a lot of ways, helped Rick. It helped him
Hmm.
grow as a coach, and so I stayed there 3 years, and then I ended up leaving.
Okay. So now Rick resigned. Am I correct?
No,
Oh, they actually fired him.
um, Rick is slick now. What Rick did was he stays ahead of the posse. Um, After my third year, Lloyd Pierce went to Atlanta. He got
Hmm.
the job in Atlanta, and Lloyd's like my little brother. I was in his wedding, and so the only reason why I left Rick was because of Lloyd. I wanted to help him be a coach, and Rick appreciated that. In fact, Rick hired Lloyd. Yeah,
Okay.
LP is Rick's associate head coach right now
Right. Right. In Indiana. Right.
in Indiana. And so what Rick did was Rick ain't gonna give up a job until he got a job.
Right.
So
Right.
Rick knew he had the Indiana job in hand. Yeah, there he is. He knew he had the Indiana job in hand. He got a handsome raise, nice contract. Um, a lot of people don't realize this, but Rick actually offered me a job on that staff when I was in Atlanta. But again, I was
You,
focused on trying. We were in the Eastern Conference Finals. I was like, no, I want to finish this first and then move on. And in that time, he ended up hiring Lloyd, which was a great hire. Um, but yeah, so Rick and I are good, but he he stepped down, and like when he stepped away, he had Indiana waiting on him.
okay. Yeah. Now, obviously, you guys, when we use Atlanta, you guys kind of came out of nowhere, so to speak,
Yeah.
to make it to the Eastern Conference. Now, when you got to Atlanta, obviously, in hindsight, did you? Because obviously, you're in a new situation. So, did you see that as your ceiling?
Um, yeah. What I saw was we had a chance to build it,
Okay.
and if management and ownership was going to be comfortable enough with getting your head beat in
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
struggling and going through it, if they were going to be willing to do that, we had a chance to do something. And I say that so loosely, uh, but it's hard. It's really hard. We I leave Dallas. I end up going to Atlanta, and this is another little fun fact. I was in all the meetings. I left and went to Atlanta in May. I was in all the draft meetings um, in Dallas, and then I go right to Atlanta, and I was in all their
Wow.
meetings. So I knew exactly that Dallas wanted Luca, and I knew that they were not going to draft Trey Young. Dallas, in fact, Rick asked us one time, you think we should trade Dennis Smith and just draft Trey Young? We were all like, Trey Young can't play for you, coach. He said, we
Hmm.
just like, he can't play. His style of basketball doesn't fit your style of basketball. And so I knew that going over to Atlanta. So when I was in Atlanta, we're getting ready for the draft. I knew we could do a deal. We knew how good Luca was in Atlanta.
Hmm.
But the reality of it is, demographically, Luca fit. We knew how badly Dallas wanted, the next Dirk. You know,
Right.
the
Right.
Dirk. And Atlanta had been winning with Budenholzer,
Hmm.
but they weren't entertaining.
Yeah.
And they were winning, but they wanted to win a
Yeah.
certain way. Well, Trey is about as entertaining as they come.
Right.
I mean, the kid is. I mean, he's a weapon, and he shoots
Hmm.
from deep. He's got all the passes. He makes plays. Defense is kind of a secondary thing or third
Hmm.
dairy. uh,
Yeah.
but he's an entertaining weapon. He's so good. So we made that trade. Like people thought that they thought for some reason that we were under the impression that that Trey was better than Luca. It wasn't a matter of if they were better. What it was is we knew we had time and we wanted more bites at the apple. We
Hmm.
made that trade to go from the third pick to the fifth pick. We got Dallas's next year first round pick. So a lot of people don't
Okay.
realize that. We got the
Okay.
first round pick for the coming year, and they weren't supposed to be that good. That pick had protection on it, but that pick was supposed to be a top 5 pick. It ended up being 10.
Oh
We had
wow.
Cam Reddish. 10 is not bad, but 10 ain't 5.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
we were thinking that we were going to get Trey Young and another fifth overall pick type player. We thought we were going to get 2 for 1, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. Um, and because we knew how badly that they wanted Luca.
Right.
The pick ends up going to 10. We get a pretty good player. We don't get the same bang for our buck. And like people think, you guys are crazy, man.
No, but it was worth the gamble though. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh, it's great.
because like you said, you could easily got a five. I mean, easily. It just So
And, and,
yeah,
and
it made
check and check this out. When I say this, basketball heads, y'all appreciate this. Trey and Luca kind of the same dude. Luca just big. He's just bigger.
Mhm.
I mean, Trey averaged 30 and 9 one year. He's a walking assist. If you're gonna get the value out of Trey, you hand him the ball and let him play mid pick and roll and let him make decisions, get him downhill. Well, Luca has the added he doesn't necessarily need a pick and roll, but it's kind of the same thing. The ISO is the same thing. Trey ISOing you out top. And I hate to say it, but neither one of them is overly concerned with defending.
Right.
So you kind of have the same constraints with both of them. And watch
Yeah.
this. Until Luca got to the finals last year, he and Trey had gone to the same distance. Both of them had
Mhm.
gotten to the finals, into the conference finals. They got into the same places. So at first it just looked kind of bad, but really and truly, they're kind of the same dude. They've been the same dude. And so, um, that was a weird time because we knew that if we were patient, and Lloyd was doing a great job. Lloyd had just come from Philly. Lloyd Pierce
Mhm.
had just been a part of the process, and he knew how difficult it was to lose. You
Yeah.
know, they didn't give us a backup point guard on purpose.
Okay.
They made us. It was like, nah, Trey. You got to live with Trey. Make it work. And it was hard, man. We we were creative. The young fella, he didn't start getting ET right there. ET ended up being our backup point guard. And ET was more like a small forward that could make plays, but he was
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that was the closest thing they gave us to a backup point guard because they knew that as coaches, we're gonna try to win.
Mhm.
And if that meant sitting Trey down, we was gonna see. We had Lynn Sanity. We had Jeremy Lin for a
Yeah.
stretch. And there were times where Jeremy was better than Trey.
Mhm.
At that, just at that time in his career.
Right.
But we had to sit Jeremy down, and we finished and closed games with Trey sometimes. And there were times where he was learning. He was just figuring out
Right.
the game. And so that's what's unfortunate. I hate that for Lloyd because I always said that, man, every coach should get a chance to coach desperate, and he never got a chance to coach desperately for his job because right before we made that run to the Eastern Conference Finals, they fired Lloyd, and Nate McMillan was on our staff, and Nate ends up taking over. And actually, they gave us all the option if we wanted to go home, and that was one of those deals where Lloyd's my boy. I was going home. I was mad, and God just pricked at my heart, man, over All Star break. And I got from angry to I finally settled my brain. I got to a point where I knew, it was good for me to stay, and I'm glad I stayed because for one, Nate's a good dude. He
Yeah.
worked with. He was, I mean, truth be told, he was more old school. He was kind of like me. He was a lot like
Mhm.
me. Believed in simple. Lloyd is, believes in simple, but Lloyd is like, he is so cerebral. I mean, you talk
Yeah.
about a sharp dude. Um, but it ended up working out well, and our defense went to another level. And it wasn't because we weren't trying. We just went to Trey, and it was like, Trey, look, you got to try harder.
Yeah.
I call that great coaching. I don't know what you call it, but it's like, man, you got to be interested. You can't
Right.
come out here and take 30 footers and shoot all the balls and make all the decisions and then not guard. And people
Right.
and Trey, in his defense, man, Trey embraced it, and so that's where we made a nice little run. It was hard for teams to pick on us. They struggled to pick on Trey, and we were able to pick on people. We were
Yeah.
actually good. We were really good during that stretch. To beat Philly in seven and at Philly
Yeah.
was pretty impressive, and we won every one of our game ones in that run. We went to New York with a road team every time, beat New York in New York. It was that was like Yay, you can't even imagine. I mean, that's like who you love on a Wednesday. Everybody in there on the stage.
Okay, the people you've heard him mention who you love twice. We gonna try to get that in and just explain what that. All I can say, capture the imagination of many. But I would say that.
That's
But
right. That's right.
so you with the Hawks for three seasons,
Uh-huh.
3 seasons. Was it two with Lloyd and one with or one? How was it?
No, it was actually it was 2.5 with Lloyd and a half with Nate.
Half.
We
Okay.
made one, and that's a whole nother deal too. It was a half with Nate, and Lloyd was building it. We when they let him go, we were injured. We had like 4 guys out of the rotation hurt, and we knew we were getting those guys back. But when management and ownership wants to make a change, it's not happenstance. The casual fan doesn't know that it's not happenstance. A lot of times they look at that schedule because think about how difficult it is to fire a guy when he's on a run. You
Right.
know, you win 6 or 7 in a row, and then you fire him. That's why,
Yeah.
like,
You don't want to answer those questions.
you don't want to answer those questions.
Right.
The Tom Thibodeau deal just
Yeah.
happened.
Right.
They let him get defeated, and now they have cause. If Tibbs gets to the finals, you can't fire him.
Right.
You can't do it whether you want to or not. You can't do it. And so I say that because we won 8 in a row after they fired Lloyd. Lloyd was going to get those 8 wins.
And those injured guys came back.
Yeah, we got bodies back. We got Bogey back. Bogdan was back. We got DeAndre Hunter back. I believe we got Cam back. We got some weapons back, and we were playing. We had different levels, different stages. We had everything was leading up to sustaining winning. But the stage that we were in was preparing to win.
Okay.
We were teaching our guys the first year. It was like, I don't know, the vision of winning or something like that. And then,
Yeah.
but the stage that we were in at that point was preparing to win. We were teaching our guys how to approach winning, how to have sustainable winning because they were young. Here's a good fun fact: the first year when we drafted those guys, all those guys, Kevin Herter and John Collins was already there, but we drafted Kevin Herter, we drafted Amari Spellman
Hmm.
and Trey, all those guys. Dude, Villanova won it that year in college,
You're right.
older than us. If you had subtracted Vince Carter out of the numbers, because Vince was there, Vince was incredible. And he was great having him on the team. He was wonderful. But if you subtracted Vince's years of experience out of the mix, Villanova was older than us. So that
Wow.
kind of tells you we were young. I mean, we were young on purpose. The model, Travis Schlink, the GM at the time, his model was Golden State, where he had just come from. He wanted to get a Steph Curry type. He wanted to get a shooter like Clay. That was his Kevin Herter. And we were looking for a Draymond type of ball handling, decision making. I mean, he knew what he wanted to build. We just needed more bites at the apple,
You know about right.
to keep trying to get the right part.
Okay. Now, obviously, everyone knows it was crazy. It seemed like it's an eternity ago now, but the whole thing, the pandemic. So I remember being at work, and I was teaching health this particular day. I was teaching health, and we was talking about this. At the time, there was 54 cases in Chicago.
Mhm,
At that time, it was 54.
mhm.
Next day, it went up, and I remember watching the game. I want to say that year, who was Chris Paul playing with? Um,
OKC.
okay, okay,
He was
and I
OKC.
just yeah, and I remember them pulling the
They were
boys
playing
off.
Utah. Utah
Yes,
was playing OKC at OKC.
yes, and I recall, and I was, and this, I said, man, this is serious because they ain't trying to give up no money. I mean, that's when I no serious. So This hit, whatever. Then obviously, the whole thing going on. Um, COVID, everybody's people dying, people scared, people don't know what you're gonna do. Wash your hands, mask. Then they say you gotta have masks off. It was so many different things going on. Then they say we have a COVID shot. All right, this is me. I'm like, that was quick as hell. I mean, I said, y'all got so. I mean, that
Yeah.
was that was my mentality. Now, and what I always told people, I didn't judge nobody who took the shot. I ain't judge nobody who didn't. I said it is a personal decision. So I was not going to take the shot. I was not. Something I saw just got me and my boy. We decided. I want to say it had to be 2021 in April, man. We was gonna go to Atlanta. We had was talking, go to Atlanta or whatever. And in fact, I actually talked to you because y'all had a game on a Sunday, but the time we didn't
Yeah.
fix it. Yes, because I was trying to go to the game. He said, "Will you come?" I
Yeah.
said, "It was crazy." So, and I think the All Star game was in Atlanta that year, if I'm not
It was.
mistaken.
It was. I
Yes.
recall.
Yep. So it was a party. They were showing stuff, and everybody was out there face naked. And I'm like, and I fed. I went to shot. I got the shot. I was going to Atlanta, so I was yeah. So I'm saying all that to say this here. All right, season ends. Season is going into the next season. Set this up for me.
Okay. I'm rewind a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
Um, we're in the conference finals.
Hmm.
We're playing Milwaukee. We win game one on the road. We're on the road. We're doing testing, which was a whole nother deal. We're doing testing. Everybody's gotten the shot except me. I was the only guy who didn't get the shot. Um, and I go back to what you said. Well, one of the things that was like just not alarming, but it just made me, my spider sense was like tingling. It said, the name of you remember what the name of the program was for the shot?
Remember?
Operation Warp Speed.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That was the name of it. Well, I'm not gonna hurry to that. I'm not, I'm not jumping exactly. Hey, I'm not ripping and running to grab something to inject in my body that was warp speed. Because hey, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have warp speed because it was like it was an emergency.
It was
You know,
yeah.
we were trying to answer questions. Well, I'm a little bit more prudent, and the Bible speaks of being prudent and
Yes.
and just being wise in your decision making. And so for me, I was like, and like they really one day during that stretch when we were playing on the road in Milwaukee, they tested me 3 times in one day on the game day. And you can say that they were just trying to make it uncomfortable. They were just trying to inconvenience me to kind of gently
Nudge
nudge
you to get the shot.
to get the shot. I don't know, but my thing was, well, everybody else has gotten the shot. You guys are protected. What is how am I impacting you if you protected?
Yeah.
And so I was made to wear a mask. Like everybody else didn't have to wear a mask anymore. I was made to wear one, which is counterintuitive, makes no sense. Um, and the other thing that made it a perfect storm, yeah, is we were in Atlanta where the CDC is located.
Hmm.
We were supposed to be the kind of the poster child, for how to do things the right way with the pandemic. And man, like you said, people was partying. Like at one point, I was trying to come. We were all complying, and I got my family back in Texas. They weren't wearing masks. Atlanta, they were trying to create the illusion of the appearance that people were wearing masks. And then, closing church. You couldn't go to church, but you could go to a liquor store.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
essentials, certain things. It was a lot going on, and it made it like you. I was like you. I wasn't quick to judge anybody. My upbringing made me want to be complicit. Being a good Southern brother, we pretty much try to go by the rules. We try to do
Hmm.
well. My beautiful wife, Cali girl, she on that other. She like, look, you ain't finna make me do nothing. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we had our little tit for tat going through the whole process, but it was healthy because it made you think. The rules were changing daily, and
Daily, yes.
you can't even imagine, like, for the regular public, the rules are changing, but for us within the NBA, because it's a private entity, yeah, when I tell you the rules were changing, there were times where we maybe would call the league office and say and ask, hey, have you guys are we supposed to do such and such and such? Well, they will have not even thought of it, but because we brought it up, within 30 minutes there was a new rule
Okay.
because we asked a question.
Because right, you asked a question, right?
I mean, they had we literally they were spending $8,000 a day to clean our practice facility. When we would, like, I could only work out, like, when they finally let us work out, guys, it could only be one coach, one rebounder, one player. They
Oh,
literally would take that basketball and spray it and take it through a cleaning process for the next, and then the next guy would get a fresh ball. They literally clean the backboards after
wow.
my office, all my papers used to be on my desk. They would spray, and like the papers in my Bible that I kept on my desk, the papers were wet, and the office was moist from where they were cleaning. We did so many things that were just like the normal public didn't even know. So I say all that to set this up. As as the season ended, I had some other opportunities at the time, but it was common knowledge around the league that they wanted everybody they wanted as many people as they could to take the shot. And there were people who I know personally, so no one had to tell me. I know people personally who actually had reactions to the shot,
Hmm.
like any medical procedure.
Right.
Everybody's gonna have a different impact.
Right. Absolutely.
And so now think about this: someone tells you, yay, that there's 100% chance that nothing's going to happen. There's 100% chance that it's going to have that. Well, anytime you hear 100%, first thing I know is you lying,
Right.
because
Nothing. Yeah.
nothing's 100%. But they were actually telling our guys that, and we had, there were some guys. Knew a young man who had blood clots. It's noted. It's out there. He had blood clots from getting the shot, and that was what it did to his body. I know guys who their heart rates, the myocarditis, heart rates increased.
Hmm.
And now we look back years later, and those are like textbook side effects, that are listed. And so for me, it wasn't my fear of that. It was me trying to be prudent. I just wanted to, take some time and know what we're getting into. And I'm thankful now I did not get the shot. I'm thankful that I didn't, because there are some side effects for some people
Yeah. Right.
that they just can't undo.
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful. Like, there was some things with, like, with young ladies' fertility. It's chronicled. This is not me. This is, you can Google this quickly, but it messed with fertility like any other procedure. Is my point. So it wasn't like I was this Joan of Arc, this martyr. I
Yeah.
wasn't a martyr, but I was like, I just wanted to be sharp and be wise in my decision making. So I say all that to say this, and you draw your own conclusion. After the season, we make the longest run, the furthest run that Atlanta's ever made. We get to the conference finals with one ankle injury away. If Trey Young doesn't step on the referee's foot and twist his ankle, we might beat Milwaukee and go to the finals. And we were pretty good. It was end up being we would have been playing Phoenix, and we felt pretty good. We were in a good position, but that happens, and so we fall short. We come in after the season. Everybody goes to their little exit interviews, and again, our defense is what changed. I'm not saying it was me, but I was
Hmm.
in our defense. I was over our defense, and then we got better, man. We got better. Everything went well. Well, Nate gets an extension. He was up for some other jobs, but he gets an extension. Everybody gets brought back. Everybody gets new contract. gets
You
more
you mean like the entire coaching staff?
entire coaching staff. Everybody they get raises and years and everybody except one. I was that one. Brought me in and the quote was, "Yeah, we decided to go in a different direction." And even that statement was kind of like, "Wait a minute, you said what? You said." One person said, "Yeah, this person organization wanted to go in a different direction." And then that person was saying, "No, that person said."
Right.
And so I was like, you know what? I said, you know what? I'm not gonna play the eighth grade game. I said, okay, fine. And I kept it moving. Um, but it was, when you put all that together, the anatomy, the autopsy of that situation together, there's one common thing. You know, I have a great team picture with everybody showing their faces, and I never forget it. Lemon Pepper Lou, Sweet Lou is standing
Yeah.
right here, Lou is standing behind me, and Trey is standing right here, and I'm sitting there, and I got a mask on, and the guys are thinking I'm wearing a mask because I wanted to wear the mask. I didn't want to wear a mask. I mean, I was like, I understood a lot of things differently than some people. So, but they made me wear it. So I got a great team picture with everybody's faces out, and I got to hide all this, man. I got to hide. I,
Um,
I had,
Stop.
I'm wearing a mask, and the boys are behind me. They're like, Coach, you still wearing masks? I said, man, they making me wear it. And they was like, Lou was like, what? You know how smart Lou is a sharp dude.
Mhm.
Lou was like, he's like, for real? Lou starts chanting while we taking the picture. Free Coach Hunt. Free Coach. So I mean, it was a unique time for everybody. But um, I'll say this: I ended up going home back to Dallas, the Dallas area, and I didn't get a lot of calls.
See this? Okay. All right. Hold up. Let me go here. So because of this, of you saying, "Hey, I need more information. I'm not comfortable putting this foreign thing in my body." Everyone gets obviously. Melvin gets the extension. Whole coaching staff get new contracts. Everyone except you. All right. They're pointing finger who this don't whatever because everybody passing the buck. Now I have, and obviously those who've seen part one, your journey has been consistent in terms of the NBA. No matter how you started, over the course of your career, you've done good things, you've made relationships, and then it's showing that you was a competent in this area. So there you have a well, forget I ain't got the time because people are. I'm gonna say this here. I mean, from the Rockets, I mean, scout, international scout, assistant coach, LA assistant, Cleveland assistant for years, Denver assistant, Denver interim, Dallas assistant, Atlanta assistant. I mean, all the teams you were part of, you was part of some good teams that advanced. So there is no break from 99 to 21.
Right,
These are all consecutive years of NBA coaching. Consecutive.
right.
No scandals, no DUIs, no no Becky's in the hotel room with cocaine. I mean, no fights, no disagreements verbally with general managers. I mean, just there is nothing in terms, of course, nothing is, but there was no blemish on your record. So they didn't want to say you didn't get the shots. Why? Okay, whatever. So now, every time going through this interview, when you left a job, there was a job. It's like, I'm going to take Melvin. I'm going to take Melvin now. You're not getting calls. So my question is this. Do you think the phone calls start going around and is this, could this be looked at as a potential blackball situation?
Yeah, maybe I wouldn't. I don't know if I categorize it that strongly. But
Hmm.
when you look at all the parts, it's easy to go to that place because I say this: it's a small league. People talk. You're connected. There's 6 degrees of separation all the time.
Right.
There's always a I work with this guy, I work with that guy. So the communication piece is definitely there. And let's just put it how it is. Our country was afraid
Yes.
because we didn't know what was really going on. So if that was the case, I think people probably took the path of least resistance. Like it's not like I was the president of basketball operations. You're trying to take a chance on, you know, I'm an assistant coach. So the mindset may have been, I don't want no problems.
I don't know problems when. Yeah, I'm okay. I see what you're saying. So you feel to say, yeah, hey, it's good, respect the coach, but I'm not gonna go to bat. So not necessarily to bat. I'm not gonna go that far. I don't want any problems. I want to stay even keel. I don't want to bring nothing to our already stressful job to
Right.
even to even add more to that. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, I see that. I see it differently, but no, I mean I absolutely do. I absolutely do. And see and the reason why I say that, even even with what you said, is a legitimate reason why people probably would say I don't want to go that way. But everybody, see
Yeah.
that's but everybody, see
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying, I always say I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you know what? I actually am. And I just realized that like maybe like 2 years ago. But my thing is, everybody though, everybody, and like, and not trying to compare, but I feel that same way with the Shador situation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody though,
You're right,
because
right,
I
not everybody. Not
yeah, because with relationships, and like I said, we've been talking about this. I wanted to. That's why I didn't care how long this was. I wanted to frame all that to get to here. There was no stoppage of coaching, no issues in this time frame. So for those calls to stop, okay. So now let me ask you this: um, Did you go through any period of resentment, or did you go through any period of depression?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I tell you what I went through. I went through self evaluation because
Mm-hmm.
it was, no one ever said, "Hey, we're not hiring you because of this." It was kind of floating out there, and got this nebulous little thing, that's kind of floating out there. So it was never, especially early on, it was never just said. Now,
Right.
as the years have gone on, it's actually been said, been told to me from
Okay.
some fairly credible people. Hey, that's what it was. But at the time, I didn't have that information. Had I had that information, it would have been probably easier for me to just keep it moving.
Yeah.
It's a private organization, institution.
They have the rights. Right. Yeah. They
Hey,
can.
Stephen A's always said, he said, hey, when they were dudes were smoking all that weed at first, say, hey, they have rules. If this was one of their deals, it would have been cool. That would have been cool for me. But I didn't know because I wasn't told that that was the reason. So, man, I instantly went into self evaluation. Man, I started calling guys around the league, to check and see if I had a blind spot that I was missing. You know,
Right.
you got broccoli in your teeth or booger in your nose and you don't know
Yeah.
it.
You want
Well,
somebody? Yeah.
I'm asking my guys who are in position, hey, is there bad intel out there about me? And so I had some guys in some pretty good positions do some homework for me, and the ledger always came back clean, thankfully. Um, so that helped me. That didn't push me into the the frustration, the anger. It made me self-evaluate, and that was a little bit of a blessing because that kept me consumed enough where I didn't have a whole lot of time to get angry and to get frustrated. By the time those emotions came, God had me focusing on some other things, my family, being home, the blessing. Yeah, you think, look how good God is. That time when I was home, I got a chance to not only be a part of my daughter's wedding, but the young man, I got a chance to see her courtship. The young man had to take me and my wife to lunch to ask
Yeah.
my daughter's hand in marriage. I got a chance to participate in all that. I was in the delivery room when my first grandbaby was born. Wasn't supposed to, but I'm slick like that.
Yeah.
I was in there, and had I been with a team or in the NBA,
It'd have been, yeah.
I would have had a totally different experience. I maybe wouldn't have been able to see. I wouldn't have probably seen my grandbaby born. I probably would have been able to come in for a day,
Yeah.
half a day and see her and get back out. But I was there for the full experience, and for the full gamut of all the emotions from the wedding. I helped plan the wedding. You know, so these are kind of latent blessings that I got from not being on a team. So God took the potential of grief and anger and frustration, and He kind of substituted in family and gratefulness. There's my crew. I was so thankful to be able to have those experiences with my family. Because otherwise, people don't realize, man, when you're an NBA coach, I mean, it takes up a lot of your time. You miss a lot of dates. If you're creative, you come up with some dates, but you miss a lot of dates.
Yeah. So, that's incredible. And well, let me ask you this. Obviously, well, no, this it would be speculation. Um, if you didn't have your faith and your relationship with God, like I think about that movie Signs, the one movie Signs with Mel Gibson, where
Mhm.
he was a priest and his wife was killed, and she was pinched up against a tree. A car hit. She was jogging or went walking, and they said she's actually cut in half. We didn't move the car to keep
See,
her alive, just to, yeah. So he kind of had lost his faith, and when I guess the aliens whatever was coming, they was watching it, and he said whatever's going on, people who have a relationship with God, they don't know what this is, but they know they're gonna be okay. Those individuals who do not have a relationship with God, they scrambling, like, and they because they have nothing to hold on to, nothing to embrace them. So what I'm asking you, with this going on, if you was not on this Christian walk, how do you think this would have played out with you
mm,
mentally and everything? Like how do you think this would have played out
if this is the
with
surface,
your sanity and everything?
if this is the surface, the Tallulah in me is right there. So I'm constantly asking God to press it down, to press that down. And what I
Yeah,
mean by the Tallulah in me, what I mean by that is that's the flesh. That's my flesh.
gotcha.
Uh, and when we operate in the flesh, you get fleshly prizes, so to speak. If you operate in the flesh, that's what you're
Yes,
gonna get. I can't imagine.
yes.
Um, there were people that gave me a lot of suggestions and gave me a lot of like would have been worldly good advice of actions and things that I probably could have done. And people saying,
Yeah.
you're like, man,
Legally, some things.
legally
People,
and all that
yes,
kind
yeah.
of stuff. I was like, look, you know what? I mean, I was like, I don't have to go that route. Um, but I'll be honest, like you said, like when you're not getting the calls and you're seeing guys like some of your peers and some of the guys that you've mentored get an opportunity, and as a man, I think I've said it already, but God gave Adam a job before He gave him a family.
Right.
Men work, and
Yes,
not have a job in your profession, that's challenging, especially when you're in your good years.
yes.
That you're on top of your game, and that was hard. And but I leaned on my faith. I did. I truly did. And God, like I said, He distracted me so well with these wonderful opportunities and with my family. It made things doable. Without my faith, Yeah, I can't even imagine. Because I would have been bitter, I'd have been angry. Uh,
Hmm.
I would have been flesh. I would have been full
Right.
flesh, full on flesh. And then the thing about it is there's a lot of things that I can do with my hands. I can get stuff done. Now it may not be what God wants done, but I
Right.
can mess up some stuff. Um, I'm so thankful that I didn't, that I trusted him with my finances. Think about that.
Yeah.
You think about that, we thank God that we took care of our money, but you stay home for 3 years without a full-time job,
Yeah.
and money going out every month. You
Yeah.
can do the math. Anybody can do the math. But through that whole stretch, I never got to a point where I allowed my flesh. And it wasn't just me. I'm not saying I'm this superhuman Christian. My wife was able to understand. My kids were great. Um, you know, we never missed a beat. Our family got closer. Spiritually, we grew together during that stretch. So that's why taking this job this year, this past year at Baylor, my daughter, my grandbabies are here, my son-in-law is here. We're all here. And I look at the NBA games and I see so many of my boys in the finals. You
Yeah. And yes. See, and how it's funny. How is this? Is this like a real full circle moment? While you're coaching at Baylor, a school that you played for 4 years, and you're again, and it's how is it in terms of, because even though you was still older than a lot of guys that you were coaching in the NBA, but these truly are kids that you. So how what is that dynamic like?
Man, it's rewarding. Um, it was getting that way somewhat in the NBA.
Because it's
Like,
getting younger and younger. The
yeah,
NBA is getting
I remember when we drafted Trey Young in Atlanta. I literally told him, I said, "You can't try anything with me." I said, "I coach your daddy."
yeah.
And I literally coached his dad. And so, that's when you get a little longer tooth when you got the father son deal. And
Yeah.
like the guys that we're recruiting and playing against, like a lot of these dudes are like, I coached their dads, you know.
Yeah.
So it's been rewarding, with college basketball changing the way it is. A lot of
Yeah.
these guys, they want to go where I've been. And so
So
I'm
so
go ahead.
yeah, you can no, I mean cut you off. Yeah, so they know your experience, so they probably really tend to probably listen probably more than they probably would if
Yeah,
had you not had that experience.
there's a layer that I don't have to go through. The
Okay,
credibility
the
layer,
credit right.
yeah, that's been removed. Now it's just left up to me to connect with them,
Yes,
to show them I care about them. Um, because that, like, wait a minute, does he even that layer is gone?
you don't
I
even
don't.
right.
I typically don't have to go through that, especially for the guys who really have the opportunity to get to the next level quickly. You know, they're here for a short time and they know it. So you're pouring into them. VJ was one we had this year. Even Jeremy Roach,
Hmm.
um, Norchad, Omir. Those are three guys that like and Flintstone, Jaden Nunn. These guys
Okay,
are going to be professional at some point. So there wasn't a whole lot of going through and cutting through this and cutting through. We got right to it. You know,
good. Yeah,
I was
that's
I could just hit them flat out. Look, pros don't do that, homie.
right out.
That, that,
Say
that-
no.
that's not pro behavior. I'll
Yeah,
say, you know, everybody can't get away with that.
yeah,
There's 7 dudes in the world that get a chance to ISO. You need to move the route.
right.
Like I could say stuff like that and it be received quickly, just because of my background and like and honestly, you've been around me. I'm not a self promoter, so I don't run around talking. Hey, I coach in the league.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
coach this guy. You know, I, those moments are intimate moments. I like for them to come out organically,
yes,
um, because a lot of times this is a cool part. For the student athletes that are just hooping and hoping that they may get there one day, they still listen too. There's a trust factor. And the other thing that I've always relied on, and this as for yourself being a coach, I can still shoot that thing a little bit. So
yeah,
if I talk a little trash,
yeah, yeah,
I can bang a couple out, and and then they know I'm a little thicker, but I can still move, and
yeah.
there's some respect there. So you use the bullets that you have.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
And like
Absolutely.
for me, I don't just I'm not coming into every conversation with, hey, Steve Francis did no,
Yeah.
because I don't want to be that dude. But the guys they're smart. I mean, the ones that want to get to the next level. If you want to get to the next level, why wouldn't you ask a dude,
Right.
who's coached them, or you know, I've gotten a couple of them on calls. You know, I'll text back and forth with one of my former players and let them see. Max Struess is one of my guys.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love his journey. He wasn't like the top shelf dude, but like I kind of utilized Max to let a guy know, hey, your route, your journey might not be like
Be that. Right.
the
Absolutely.
pick overall. Your journey might be,
Absolutely.
you got to bump around a little bit, and so
Yeah.
it's been a blessing. And then the reality of it is, man, this is true. Man, I've been using the camouflage of basketball to help these dudes spiritually, and to help
Yeah.
them their eternity. Man, I've been tricking them, dog. Been tricking them with that basketball for for 25 or more years. They're looking at the basketball on the one hand, and we're dealing with their faith. We're dealing with their eternity on the other hand. And so, to me, when I'm not able to do that, that's when I'll be a greeter at Walmart,
Yeah. Checking tickets, huh?
checking tickets, homie.
But all you gonna be looking for the big ticket items. Because otherwise, you don't see that pack of pork chops up under there. And no, I'm saying I did the same about that. I mean,
I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know.
listen, man, I see people still on Walmart all the time, and I think it's hilarious.
They be
I
doing
think it's hilarious, but people are struggling. They hungry, and they, like I said, the people at I don't get back at it. It's funny. They're just trying to see if you got some big ticket item. They making minimum wage. I,
right.
I used to always watch, like I said, the top 10 richest people in America. Three of them was the wall kids, your children.
Uh-huh.
So, but hey, that's
Right. Right.
yeah,
That's all.
yeah. So they don't care. Let me ask you this here. Okay, with the landscape of college basketball, it clearly has changed. Um, First of all, it's a two part. What are your thoughts with NIL? And second part with the transfer portal.
See, and that's cool. And there's absolutely no way that you can parse those out.
Mm-hmm.
They go hand in hand. They're like peanut butter and jelly, man. They go together. NIL in itself, I love that players are getting up, like, making money. It's great. Should I go back to Jalen Rose? He was like,
Yeah.
at Michigan. I get it. And see Webb and them, I get it. And even us, even when I was playing, you play, yeah, I get it. I don't mind them making money at all. That's on one side. Transfer portal on the other side. This all came about because they were saying that like coaches get to leave.
Leave
A
and
coach gets to leave.
leave,
So why?
get out of a contract. Right.
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 That was the whole deal. And so what we've done is we've kind of picked and choose what we want to take from each. And it's not necessarily the best thing, because like when coaches leave, sometimes they have a buyout.
Right.
They have to pay some money. Somebody
Mm-hmm.
has to pay some money. I heard a small college coach say this. When the big schools, when the Power Four school comes in and we go and get their best player, I understand the mindset of maybe we should pay them something. Maybe they should
Mm-hmm.
get some bread. For us stealing, taking their asset. Where else in Europe? That's what they do with the soccer teams. They put players on lease and on rent, and you can rent a guy from the big soccer team to play for your lower level team. But there's always money, and
It's money exchange. Yeah.
the big team can bring them up, but they pay a little price. If they go down to their farm team and bring you up, they pay a little price.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one side of it. So now when you merge them together, um, the freedom of movement with the transfer portal, with there being zero, like where you can just leave whenever you can go and come, along with money, really hurts the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's damaging the game, because like now I've heard people kind of try say to me, because they know I've been in professional sports for so long, saying, well, we're a lot like you guys were, in the NBA. This is not the NBA.
Yeah.
One, contracts are binding in the NBA. Contracts at this level, they're not binding. You and I can come up with a contract right now, and I think you're a part of my team, and you can leave,
Yeah.
and there are no real ramifications. You don't have to sit. You don't have to pay any money back. I mean, contracts are not, they're not really binding. We had a meeting about this the other day. They're not binding. So that in itself makes it not like professional sports. The other part of it is, you know, just from the product on the floor. You used to, you built a program. Like, it's hard to have a program now. You're gonna
Yeah.
have teams. It's gonna be really, really hard to have a program. You're going to have teams, good teams. Having a good program is going to be tough because you don't keep them there long enough to have corporate knowledge, traditions. Everybody talks about the culture. How are you going to develop a culture when it's going to change? You got to start all over the next year. Uh,
Right.
all those things, man, are just, it's tearing away at the game. Um, but people are a little bit distracted by just the money. It's not just the money, it's all of it together. It's the mindset, and I tell you what, I was about to say the mindset, but the people who are going under the radar are the agents.
Hmm.
They're winning. I mean, people don't realize, like, they're calling these deals NIL, name, image, and likeness deals. They're not NIL, it's pay for play.
But yeah, that's what it is. Yeah,
It's pay
absolutely.
and yeah, and if you're going pay for play, these contracts, because they call them NIL deals, the agents can get up to 20. They can, like, 20%. I've heard bigger
Wait a minute.
numbers.
Hold on. Wait a minute. So, wait a minute. So you saying the agent now, depending on what enterprise, whatever, want to with this person, but they agent getting up to 20? Because what, well, I don't know, but what's the standard? What it used to be 4%?
4% was a high end for, but that was for a playing contract. That was
Okay.
for your salary contract.
Okay.
That was different, up to 4%. And the guys even negotiated that. Like, even with my agent back in the day, you can negotiate and say, hey, how about we do 3%? How about we do 2%? On this deal, especially if it's not a lot of work to be done.
Okay.
And that's on, like, your salary contract. On marketing deals, you always you can get a little bit more. You get more money. Well, these deals, because of how they're titled and how they're named, NIL deals, man, they're getting 20. I've heard, I've never seen this with my own eyes, but I've heard some places, some guys are getting more than 20%.
Wow.
Think about it, you do $1 million deal, and somebody's going to get 200 off the top.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, that's pretty alarming. But and so the agents are the ones that, like, they're going under the radar. That's why a lot of these kids, they don't want them to go pro. Stay in college because I can get 20% of your deals
For the next couple of years,
the
yeah.
next couple of years, and your money goes up. You go to the next school. You go to, yeah. Think about this. You got your Grambling jersey up in the back. I love it. I got my Baylor jersey on my wall right there.
Mhm.
I'm proud of that. You old boy now that's been to his fifth school in 5 years. Where he going for homecoming? I know where you going for homecoming.
Right.
You know where
Right.
I'm going for homecoming.
Right. Right.
Where's he going? He gonna go to Georgetown. He gonna go to Providence. He gonna fly over to UCLA, and he finished up at you gonna. I mean, dudes get tattoos because they love. Late girls get. Hey, USC baby.
Yeah.
I was in the walkway going getting on a flight, and just my little time at Graham, I hit it with GS, GS, GSU. And you know what she said? I
I
thought
thought
you
you
knew.
knew. Yeah.
There's a connection to your university. Well, now things are so transactional with a lot of these situations. The young men and some of the young ladies, they're not connected to the school. You're there 7 months at
Yeah.
best. Think about this: you're there 6, 7, 8 months, and then you throw that into the mix, and the way that they've opened up things, like, we went to class.
Yeah.
Now they've got online and not Zoom and all these different creative ways that they can get their education. Some of these kids, they don't even go to campus. They don't.
Yeah.
They're not even on campus, and so I hate that. And maybe I am the old man. I don't mind being the old man, but I hate that they're missing out on what
Yeah.
we got.
Absolutely.
There's
Absolutely.
nothing like. Like the Bayou Classic means something to. I mean that means something. Dudes be getting in fights and ladies mad because that's your school, and the rivalries and all that stuff is it's really changed it. There's not the same connection. Hey, back in the day, I know you remember this. Transferring within the conference was 2 years.
Yeah, yeah,
You said 2 years.
2 years. Yeah, and yeah, it's yeah, man. It's crazy, and then it is even trickled down now to the high schools to where going, and it's almost like these young kids, they're thinking their parents, their dads got these kids trying to think as professionals,
Mm,
and it's because here's man, look, I saw something yesterday. Um, we were going our staff. We had got a party bus. We went to did a boat cruise, whatever. I had we had a carnival for the kids, so I was hot. So I had to go home, shower, and come back. There was these 5 boys that was about a school in the back. I don't even know this kid. They don't go to school. That was just hooping. Little, they maybe I stopped the car and I was just watching them. I got out the car and I just was watching them. They saw me there, but they didn't think that they was, but they were just hooping, man. They were just hooping, and I saw myself just playing basketball, man, and having fun. And I think now, it's like I have to train this guy. Texted me yesterday. No, it's early today. Are we still good Friday? So I'm working this kid out Friday, and I said, yeah. But I even try to tell him, I don't want this to be so business like. We working like he was so tense. I said, no, no,
right,
no, no,
right,
no,
right, right.
no. I don't. We gonna do some drill. We have fun. So I think that is taking so much from the game. And it's like you said, they are missing so much, man. Just the relationships, uh, just being in the dorm. I mean, just all those things. It's just yeah, it just kind of it messes me up. Now hold up, yeah, I get caught up on this, but hold on, I'm actually this here, just real quick. 'Cause I know you have. It's funny because you have a real connection here. Now we know now tomorrow night the NBA Finals is going to kick off. Now, where are you? How do you see this going? And also put in position you on one of the staffs. Y'all back, y'all in your meetings trying to strategize and find the weaknesses of everything. How you see this going?
Well, the first thing is if I'm on a staff, the first thing I'm doing is I'm looking at that other team, and we gotta figure out who the players are, you know,
Mm,
who the stars are, who's the real MVP of that team, and then you start saying who realistically can we impact. There's certain guys like sometimes you go into a series, you're like, he gonna get his,
yeah,
so why waste your resources? It's like you remember studying for finals.
yeah,
Hey man, I got to cut my losses. I, I can't waste. I can't waste energy. I got to ration my effort. I got to put it all into this one. I can't go out.
yeah,
That one's good. That ship sailed.
yeah,
There's some matchups you look at, you like, there's absolutely no way we got nothing for that, and that's okay. But then you find the places where there's kinks in the armor,
yeah,
and then this is just going into a series. So so people don't realize you're really prepping for one game. You're not prepping for the series.
mm,
You're prepping for game one to try to win that game.
mm.
And game two is going to have a whole different
Different looks.
identity. It's going to have a
Yeah,
whole different everything. But game one, you can prepare. You can really prepare. Now, there's some things that might go all the way through the series, but game one is the only one that's like that. So you're going into it, you're saying, who can we eliminate? What can we what can we what can we take from them? Like we went into a series one year and we're playing Boston, and it was we're taking away. Was it Ray? Yeah, it was Ray or Rip. It was either Detroit or I think it was Boston though. We said we can't take away their pick and roll. It's they're gonna get stuff out of that. They got too many counters. Said, but we're gonna eliminate all of Ray Allen's pin downs. We blitzed. You never see teams blitz a pin down.
Mm-hmm.
We blitzed his pin down, messed them up. That was all we said. We're gonna take that away. That's a segment of their offense that Doc's not gonna get. We're gonna take that away. For game one, caught them off guard. They didn't see it coming. It was really beneficial for us. Another game against St. Boston, we said we're gonna pick Rondo up 94. Guy that's not known as a shooter. He ain't used to people don't pick Rondo up. You
Yeah.
back off him and go under all his pick and rolls.
Right. Yeah. Make him be a jump shooter. Right.
Man, we went the other direction on him. We pressured him, messed with him. For one game, it was beneficial for us. The next game, we tried. We started off with that. That little joker was tearing us up. But that's what you're doing, getting ready for that first game. Okay, what is it that we can take away from them? Why? Hey, some coaches are so bold, they'll change their lineup early. They'll change a matchup early and take offense away from you. Some teams will go big. They'll go big right away because they know you don't have enough bodies to match the sides. So those are the things that you're looking for when you're prepping. And trust me, they've been prepping. Both teams have been prepping for these teams for weeks.
For weeks, right?
Because you got other people on staff that have other responsibilities, but they're because you don't know who you're playing, and you do as much work as you can in preparation so that once you know who your opponent is, you hit the ground running. My boy Lloyd texted me the other day and he said, "Man, I'm just thankful that we got a chance to get a little bit of rest too, because had they gone to game 7, they wouldn't have had as much rest. But with them being able to get it done in 6, yeah, it helped them start get their full focus on their opponent. And so, like the other deal is seeing another series go long, and you're trying to prepare, and you don't know who's going to win. You got to prepare for both.
Both. You got to prepare for both. Yeah.
You
So how does that is that divided in terms of the coaches? In terms of how do you guys do that?
everybody can do it differently, but most folks will divide it up. Like if you're a defensive guy, you're preparing defense. I'm doing special teams. I got out of bounds, presses, zones. I'm working on that stuff. On both, I may do both sides of the ball.
Situational things or what?
In the
Yeah.
game, in the
Okay.
half, in the quarter.
Yeah.
You're covering all of it. Personnel, you're doing a lot of. The good thing about personnel is personnel's not going to change. I mean, Shea is Shea. He does what he does. So you're going to have personnel. You can get that pretty much done. But now you might start tweaking, like, what can you take away from him? What does he prefer? But him as a player, you already pretty much know. That's the work that you'll have guys do that. They'll knock that out. And then it's just about freshening that video up, so that it pops. You got stuff from the most recent games, but you know the concepts. And then like you put together themes. Like most things come up with themes. You'll have 3 or 4 themes that you feel like, because you can't have too much, but you'll have themes like, got to eliminate second shots, can't let them play in transition, make the ball stick. Offensively, you're offensively for your team, you're saying, hey, we got to find a way, we got to get in the paint. They're the 24th ranked paint team in the league. We got to find ways to get in the paint, break down their defense. How do we create our threes? We can't fall in love with the 3, but they give up the most threes in the league. You're looking at things, and then you start taking those things and saying, okay, yeah, this might be what their weaknesses are, but we don't have those strengths.
Right.
So we can't attack something that we don't have.
We can't. Right.
Right. And then some of your strengths might match up with their strengths, and you don't go away from them. But it's like
pretty much it's a wash, right?
Yeah, you're like, we got to see And
Yeah.
again, yay, this is all game one. Game one, and a lot of stuff kind of will float through the series, but that's definitely game one. And then here's the cool. This is what I love. It's kind of overstated, but everybody talks about the adjustments, and there are adjustments, but you fall into things, and that's the fun part. You may go into it saying, "Man, there ain't no way that we can attack them on the offensive glass," and then at game one, you start
Yeah.
find something. You see
Yeah.
something. You see a hole. You're like people don't realize. Oh, they're running. They normally cut that. They normally hit the wing and cut that point guard to the weak side. Well, that's what we normally do. We cut him to the weak side. Well, if we cut him to the weak side, that means if the shot goes up, that's their point guard trying to box us out. We need to crash our point guard
Mm-hmm.
because they got their point guard. You fall into something as simple as that is, man, that can win a series. We had Hedo Turkoglu and Rayford Austin and Jameer Nelson back in the day with Orlando. Man, they was running this mid pick and roll, a chin 15. Never forget it. They were running a mid pick and roll, 1-5 middle pick and roll, and where they cut that small was how they manipulated who had to tag Dwight.
Okay.
If it was Jameer, that means they would hit and let Jameer go through, and Hedo Turkoglu at 6'10 was running the pick and roll with Dwight, and you couldn't switch it. So when Dwight rolled, our point guard was tagging Dwight. Ask my boy Brandon Knight about tagging big dudes. I mean, it ain't fun and it's hard. So they started. You start bringing who you want over there. So now you got to change your matchup. Now I got to put somebody in that spot that's big enough and athletic enough to tag that guy. And so they know that. So now even their plays where the guy was supposed to go to the opposite corner, now you're bringing him to the strong side.
Yeah. See.
You manipulate, or you got the great shooter. You got your great shooter over there in that corner. We ain't never the guy that we're not guarding like Rondo. We would always double off of Rondo. Well, next thing you know, they start putting Rondo in the dunker. You can't double when he on the baseline by the basket, because he can play make. All these things, man, that's the fun. You see, I'm getting a little excited about it
Yeah.
right now because that's the stuff where you're playing chess. You're
Mm-hmm.
figuring out how can I manipulate this. You start looking at rotations. Hey, every 5 minute mark, at the 5 minute mark of the quarter, they go back with Danye at the small forward. Okay, so they go small ball. They're going small ball. They're playing a 6'3" small forward. Okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to change up our rotation and we're going to keep Mellow in at the three.
Right.
And we might not even get the direct, go at you, but somebody got a double.
Somebody. Yeah.
So now we got to have shooters. We got shooters in the
You gotta
game.
have shooters in there, right?
So now we got shooters in there to make you pay.
Because if you don't double, then barbecue chicken.
Barbecue chicken. I mean, so you start. You see, like that's the strategy, and like going into game one, you may not have that, but by game two, you see it. You when you break down that film as a staff and you're going through your process, you start seeing those things. Wait a minute, they matched up here. Oh, or you move a guy out of that rotation. When you struggle to score, you had that 2 minute drought where you couldn't score. Now you move, man. We can't have. I remember going into a series. We was like, we got to have Delonte West, and people don't realize how cold blooded he was. We got to have Delonte West and LeBron in the game. One of them. We can't not have one of them in the game because we couldn't run offense. Delonte could always create something. Obviously, LeBron could create something. But we had stretches where we thought we could have both of them on the bench resting. Man, it killed our offense. Now, defensively, we may have been okay, but offensively, we couldn't score. So you're constantly playing these games, and coaches, it's so funny, man. We laugh at each other during the game sometimes. We'll look down there during the game and be like, we know what he's doing. Mark Jackson sent a fake lineup up to the table up to at the beginning of the game, every game of the series we played him. He had, like, I think I talked about David Lee. Man, David Lee wasn't playing, but he did that just we never would tell them who we were starting. We were like, we're just gonna wait. We're just gonna wait, and then we throw our starting lineup out there. I mean, it's a lot of gamesmanship.
Yeah.
A lot of gamesmanship. Coaches already know in their mind. Rick already know if this series gets a little crazy, Rick's gonna give away $25,000. He gonna say something in the media.
Yeah.
To bring attention to it. I mean, and he's not gonna just do it. It's gonna be well timed. You don't just use a bullet like on
Just
a game,
yeah.
on a game on the road that you're gonna have a hard time winning anyway. You're gonna do it when you can get the benefit of it at the crib. All of that comes into play, man. And I'm telling you, that's the fun part. That's where the strategy comes in, and figuring out ways to close the game. Rudy T used to always say this to me, man. It was the coolest thing, like just listening to him. My man he would say, we can't stop that pick and roll, the Stockton Malone pick and roll. He said, but for one possession, Mel, I want you to know, be prepared so that we can know for one possession, what can we do that it will ensure that we get a stop. And man, that brother, he's so cold. He was so poised. He would hold it, and I'd be wanting to use it.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes, like, Fast and Furious, you can't use your burst.
First, yeah.
You got to hold it. You can't use it in the first half because they'll go in the locker room. They'll figure it out. You can't now with technology. You can't use a lot of your stuff
Yeah.
on the iPad.
iPad, right,
You
right.
got to be real selective as to when you use it. And so that's what they're doing right now. They're getting ready for game one. They're figuring out, the place. I'm hearing everybody talking about, Halliburton ain't gonna be able to score. Well, that's low hanging fruit. If that's what you think, the thing is gonna be is like he's not gonna be able to score. Man, there are gonna be so many other issues. There are gonna be so many other things that are positives. Like for one, Coach Carlisle might just say, I'm okay with Halliburton not scoring, but he got to get in the paint.
Yeah.
I'm okay with him not scoring, but he's got to draw too. Um, he's still got to provide something to allow us to score. And the other thing is, you go into those series, you still got to be you. You ain't gonna just turn into somebody you ain't.
You can't be right.
You got to be good. You got to be great at what you do, and that's where the young guys make mistakes. They try to go into those. That's why you see teams that are inexperienced. They try to do more, and unless you're like the guy, you really don't have to do more. You just have to be really, really good at what you.
At what you do. At what you do.
And so that's the mindset right now. Yeah, I'm telling you, they are going over. You know, everybody knows your plays. Your plays ain't beating nobody. I can just say, little tweaks and adjustments and all that to plays. Yeah, that may give you give you a little bit of an advantage, but the plays ain't beating nobody. I mean, I could look at my desk. I got them somewhere. Man, I got everybody's plays. I used to have you had everybody's plays. In the All-Star game, when we have all the All-Stars together, we would as coaches we would draw up like you got Paul Pierce on your team, and in the timeout we say, okay, we're gonna run this play right here, just to mess with them to see if they. And PP was like, yo, that's my play.
That's my yeah.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, we know that. And Joe Johnson say, Joe, hey, Joe, you normally like to get to the elbow. Hey, you want to run it on the other elbow? And he'd be like, yo, so everybody knows your stuff. I
No
mean,
split.
and
Yeah.
so that's not what the focus is. The focus is going to be being rested, being sharp at what you do, and then being ready to see. Because I'm telling you, man, you falling stuff that you think going into the series, this is going to win the series. Man, you get in that
It'd
series,
be something totally yeah.
totally different, and you got to be ready to pivot. Yeah.
Wow. Now this is this has been great on a whole lot of levels because not just the basketball talk, but your mindset in terms of showing. I mean, it was a lot of things. Like I said, we didn't. I talked about it a little bit, but obviously, your experience coach. But it come down how when you do get an opportunity, you have to then create more opportunities yourself. Like you can get in the door, but can you stay in the door, and can you have other doors opening by what you're doing here? And they say, when you leave one situation, you want to leave it sweetly. You want to leave because, like you said, people remember. And this is this has been great, man, because your journey, and when a situation where others probably would have said, "Man, it's messed up. I'm not doing this," but you exemplify a certain level of peace that not only is good for just anyone. I'm not outside of sports, whatever industry you're in, and you attribute it all to the great I am, to God. That that shows that He is real, and you can still get your desires by keeping Him first. And I think that's been great. I'm gonna say this here. I would be remiss if I didn't say, I'll tell you how this friendship started. And that's why I brought the God thing up. We kind of talked about this before. When I transferred to Grambling, God could have placed me in Pinchback
Mm,
dormitory. He could have placed me in Drew. You know what I'm saying? He could have he could have put he could not and not anyway. He could have put me. I was in Douglas Hall, but he could have put me on the first floor in Douglas Hall. He
exactly.
could have put me down the hall
Right.
where he placed me, right next door to to Jimmy and them. Of course, Chuck and Jermaine them was to my right, and Judy Moon,
I
this
did.
brother, this brother here, we connected almost immediately, which is yo road dog, and by you coming there, you got taking grad classes there from Baylor, and then it was crazy. Then you taught me. Then we started talking about. You said you lived in Flint. I said what? Then we started talking about E.T. T, T Green,
Yep.
Rice, Yank. You know what I'm saying? So I
Yep.
say this is crazy, and I know it wasn't luck. It wasn't. It just wasn't. And this is one of those situations because every time you get to a point, every time God does something amazing, you're like, what can He do? And then He does something again. Like wow, and he's like, you still, and you know what I'm saying. So I'm thankful to Jimmy. I'm thankful for this friendship, and Melvin, this just been awesome. This is you have the record. There's some of your pocket. You have the first two parter because, like I said, I didn't want to cheat it because you've done too much. You're an example with all the relationships that you've had, all the relationships that you have, just everything that you have done. I think it's a blessing. Your passion for the game and your knowledge of the game and your love. I still feel like you just getting excited. Then all the stories, and I know there's a whole lot more. Some other stories I'm gonna talk about, but they ain't gonna be on here. Some other stuff we gonna talk about. Your standing on your faith through this foolishness, and
Mm,
and you how you continue to stand on and to see your guys that you coached with in the finals, and there is no bitterness. All those things, man. I think is absolutely. If people, what I'm saying, people are not getting what I'm saying. I think you really need to check yourself because this is real, man. This is real, and I'm just I'm just excited that we had this opportunity, man. And I just want to say this here. I'm gonna let you have the last word, but I just thought I'd throw that out to you.
man, listen. Um, two things, two statements I make often. and I tell some of our student assistants and grad assistants, coaches, players, whoever will listen, there are no coinky dinks. You know, like you said, it wasn't no luck. As a believer, we don't believe in luck. We don't believe in coincidences. God has divine appointments. He places us different places at the right time. Like you were born when you were born and where you were born for a reason.
Right.
And that's just the truth. Um, that's one. And the other one is God wastes nothing. He wastes nothing. He didn't waste those Uno tournaments.
Yeah.
He didn't waste those campus wide pillow fights.
Right.
He didn't even waste. This was a classic Danye. When I would come visit later on, and you would say, and they passing joints, you say, Mel, they ain't doing it at Baylor, are they? Hey, God didn't wait. None of those moments, don't, none of that was by chance.
Yeah.
The connection, the Jimmy being the ultimate connector.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, I, I don't even know what category to put Jimmy in for me, man. He ain't my friend. The
Right.
Bible talks about a friend, so I guess he is my friend, but he's more than a friend. He ain't he's more than a brother. I mean, I don't know that category. I don't know how to
How
categorize,
to cut right.
but I know he means a lot to me. Uh, Check this out. He means a lot to my wife. He is a part of who I am. I know that God placed him in my life so many years ago for a reason, and those reasons are still happening. It's amazing, and that Tallulah part, yay,
Yeah.
that was uh that was the main show, and then all the offshoots, all the what do they call them? The Jeffersons, not sitcom, when they have another show off of a show,
Yeah. You talking about a spinoff?
spinoff.
Spinoff.
It's spinoff. You got Happy Days,
Yeah.
Happy Days to Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah. Yeah.
All those shows is kind of what we are like. It started there with me and Tallulah with Jimmy, and then it just kept growing and growing. And I'm telling you, the relationship that we've had, like you said, we sniffing up on 30,
Yeah.
30 years, man. That means a lot to me. And my wife loves the relationships I have because like she can hear me giggling like an eighth grade girl when we on that text straight that
Yeah.
text, talking about this, that, and the other,
Yeah.
and all the moments. And so I know that those are blessings. And
Absolutely.
here's the cool part: from 20-year-olds, in our 20s, to what we were talking about, to now talking about real things,
Yeah.
having real family members, having real occupations, um, watching each other's faith grow.
Yeah.
Uh, it's a wonderful journey, and like I don't take it for granted. I know you don't either. It means a lot to me because I know that everybody doesn't have the same stories.
Right.
Like if I'm in Chicago, I might not see you, but I'm gonna shoot you a text. We're gonna
Yeah.
call, breathe
Right.
the same air, whatever it is. I don't take that for granted, and like I appreciate the fact that I was number two. Hey, look, man,
Yeah.
look.
Yeah.
Hey, look, man, I'm cool. This is one time I'm cool. I like being the runner-up. I love it because it does. It's seriously, all kidding aside, it speaks to our friendship, our relationship, man, and there's nothing like when your partner, your peer says great things about you. For you to feel the way you feel about me, the way you've expressed it, I mean, I don't even know what to say. I mean, it makes me a little emotional because because I'm not a self promoter. And
Yeah.
it's cool when people say things. And what I've learned to do, what I'm learning to do better at is receive it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you say, oh, no, 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 receive it. You
Yeah.
know, I receive all of this, man. I appreciate you, brother. And hey, two brothers on the couch, cut
Yeah. You're not a self promoter. If you remember this real quick, this was still pandemic time. It still was out there, and was this the layman's for the Progressive Baptist Convention, or was my church, the Brotherhood Ministry? I wanted to put something together, Zoom,
Yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah,
had five. I picked five brothers I wanted to talk, and you was one of them.
yeah, yeah.
You never mentioned nothing about your coaching. About nobody knew what you did. I had to put it out there though, because you're not a self promoter. But we're gonna leave y'all with these two things he mentioned first. First of all, if you look at part one, first thing he said, "Oh, y'all on the squad, let me explain to y'all. Listen, let me tell you something. This, the fact that you're at Carmen says it makes no sense. Listen, I love, I love my people.
Mm,
We are funny and not even trying to be funny.
I ain't trying.
I almost set the stage. It was a summer league game at the school, Arthur Eddy. Everybody's talking about Arthur Eddy. My father used to work there. He had some big time games there. So we was about to play, warming up, but the other team, they hadn't got there yet. So just cats in the audience, yo, let me get in that layup line. So we was
That's crazy.
that right there in itself. So cats was out there, everybody's in the layup line. And, you respect the layup line. We go, you rebound, you get back. It wasn't no tripping. Some cats dunking. So I would say it probably was between, I'm not exactly, between 19 to 23 people in the layup line. And Corey Holiday, Babe brother, their older brother, he came in. That's his hood, whatnot. And he saw all those people in the layup line, and it had to look crazy. Some cats wouldn't even have basketball gear on, but look, everybody was roll calling, butter roll, everybody, cat, doing their little joint, their little two
Right, right,
step.
right. The drag
So
joint.
yeah, yeah. So he came in, he was looking. He said, "Oh, y'all on the squad, man." I fell out because it was so real. It was so real, man.
Hey,
And then
you
when
can't tell me that I wasn't there. I wasn't there, but you can't tell me I wasn't there. I know. I see the scene.
man, I thought that was just that was the funniest thing in the world to me, man. I love stuff like that. And last, I'm gonna tell y'all, he mentioned who you love twice. Now, when I transferred to Grambling, obviously I wanted to play, but obviously I had to sit out. They had this crap. You had to accumulate 24 hours at the school to play. So Melvin come in. Melvin, you take a couple of classes at Grambling. You already finished at Baylor. So who you love was an intramural team. But the year before they were the Fireballs. Our boy Jimmy and Tika, and they got a lot of puck because they was little, but they need a little more. So nobody knew me, Grambling. Nobody knew Mel. I said, man, and I said, okay, we gonna have a squad for real. So, and I still mention to them, I'm gonna say it again, gut. We
Yeah.
all went to play and peanut butter, jobs out there, and Jimmy's asked gut, who was better? He said, me and Rob were about the same.
I heard a little.
Look,
I heard a little.
shout out to Rob. Shout out to Rob. Much love. No, we're not.
No, we're not.
Listen. I took that on gut for years. Every time if he was on my opposite team, I said, I got gut. So, but that team, it was an intramural team.
Yeah.
Listen, that year, Grambling, the university team, they were like 6 and something.
20 something.
We were the most popular team on campus, and it wasn't that we was good. We did stuff just to make people laugh. We was a man. I said, "What? Hey, today we gonna wear purple socks," or we would do all type of
Under
stuff.
top. We
Under,
were
under
backwards. We were
yeah,
Hey, remember, this was the thing. It was you better get there early because they'll boycott. They'll forfeit the game
yeah,
because we scored. We be up 20-2,
yeah.
and coach gonna be like, game.
Feel that they just call it. They
Yeah.
just call it, and they would say, "Who you love?" But what's thing about it, the defense, and it was funny because every time we could call love runs, a love run could be like 9-0, 13-2, and every time we had a run, Jimmy was never in. So Jimmy at the scoring table, yo, let me in, let me in,
You can't get it.
let me in. He could never, and it was
Oh,
funny because the Michigan, Michigan had a team.
yep.
We dubbed them. So every time I was Sag Nasty, they was hot. They the you
Hold
know
on. Hold
yeah
on. Remember, because I'm a Kappa. Remember the dude
yeah
got mad at me?
oh yeah
He got mad at me, wanted me to play. I said, "No, man, I'm playing with my boys." And we smacked.
oh yeah.
We
Yeah,
we got a good
I actually got that. I have that game on VHS tape.
it.
I got that game, so yeah, man. It just was a cool time, man. We was it was, and it was crazy. Lastly, like I said, Coach Willis and them did their part. They put the brackets that we was supposed to meet Sykes them, Sykes, Dan,
Right,
and them,
right.
but they ended up losing to All Metro, the football squad, and
Yep.
we lost to Just Do It, which was Rob White and them.
Yeah, how
They
about
beat us
that?
by 3. It's crazy. I talked to White not too long ago too. I knew it was trouble when Rob shot. Jimmy hit the ball and he caught in the air and banked that thing. In fact, Smooth had a game. You know what? Him and his wife has a have a bourbon and is doing. I interviewed him. It's
Really?
called Black Eden. Doing great thing. I
Huh.
interviewed him a few months back. Yeah, so the shout out to them, and they doing their thing. But
Hey,
yeah,
I got one more that me and my wife say, and it typifies it. Try to hold it together when I say this, because the women's is worse
worse
than
than
the
the
men's.
men's is. Listen, you know what? I would not say this brother name to say it.
That's what that's
I
what
ain't gonna say. Listen, but he was employed at Grove State as
higher
you know.
education.
The first part that he said, this campus is full of alcoholisms and profanities. He said, and the women's are worse than the men's. Hey, and that same cat, homecoming, Spice Lee, Spice One came, Spice
Uh-huh.
One. So SGA, they didn't give him his tag, so he let you go to the football game. Because back in the day, see, people remember you had to show your IDs to
Right,
get in those games.
right.
So this cat we talking about, now I'm gonna go and say it was Coach Willis. I'm gonna call a spade a spade. Jim Dandy, Junction City, Junction City. So he had the thing. So Spice One trying to get in the game. He's like, no, I'm saying I don't have an ID. I'm Spice One. I performed last night. He said, he said, I don't care if you're Spice One or Spice Two. You're not getting in here. So he had to go to the SGA. Oh, Coach Willis was not letting him in.
Oh, sir.
He was not
Oh,
letting him in, man. See, we going back. Y'all don't know. Going to that women's gym hooping. They had that list. Theo, I'm saying
sir.
Theo threw me out one day, and I'm serious. That day, I was willing to fight
You gonna get at it.
because you had to write that list. I wrote "yay" on the paper. This not your name. I said it's a proper name. I said you letting Pimp play. Pimp had Pimp. What? I still don't know what Pimp name was.
Right. Pimp.
I said this fool got Pimp on the thing.
And I can't put part of my name?
Yeah, he said, Jones, see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. He put me at the gym, dog. Theo from Trinidad. Shout out Theo though, man. That stuff is crazy, man. But yeah, this is this has been great, and this has been long. But hey, I was patient. I was thankful that you didn't forget about me. And
No.
I said whenever your schedule permits, whenever your schedule permits. So now y'all I know y'all schedule. You ain't got no games. You ain't coming up this way next year, are y'all? Anywhere up here? The Wisconsin? Anybody?
I know of, man. We scheduling is crazy, because now you schedule, there's so much money involved in scheduling. It's like
Okay.
non-conference games, a lot of times you're trying to schedule games that you can make money.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to match up with another school that's gonna bring some money
Bring
because
some brings
the
right.
NIL games,
Yeah,
you might make a couple million off of a
yeah,
game.
right,
So now it's real selective. You know, we talked about some stuff that actually is funny you talking about. We were talking about some stuff that was going to be between like Indianapolis and then there was Chicago. That whole Indianapolis, Chicago, and there was one other city in that area. We were talking about playing a team on a neutral site, but it wasn't really going to be neutral because it's a Midwest team, and we didn't want to go up there and get clapped
right,
and help them
right.
get money. But like if it was more neutral, then you do it. So
You
man,
do it. Okay.
bro, I'm telling you, man. I mean, you just keep your eye on college sports because it's a big change. Another big when they do this settlement here in the next week or so. When they do that, that's going to make a big change. But there's a lot of stuff that people don't realize that potentially could happen here in the next 6 months to just change the whole landscape of college sports. So just keep your mind, and keep your eyes open to it.
Definitely, definitely will, man. And my thing is now I put a I was hearing some names. I know we don't cut off, but I heard his name to today along, as far as one, for New York. Then I heard Wright. Obviously, that's the relationship he had. He coached the boy. I think I heard Bud. What's the cat? That was with the Lakers and with Phoenix. What's the coach?
Oh,
Huh?
Frank Vogel.
Yeah, vote. Yeah. And who else? Who else name I heard? It was one more name I heard.
Well, the one name that came up that was interesting was J Kidd.
Oh, really? I didn't hear that one. Okay.
J Kidd, his name came up, and then the other one that would make sense, but they can't pull this one off is Rick Brunson
Oh, okay.
because he's on staff, but him and
Yeah.
Tibbs like and
Yeah.
that's tight.
Yeah.
When that went down, yeah, I was on the phone with Ed Pickney. Ed was
Okay.
talking, he's scouting, and Ed and Tibbs are like brothers.
Okay.
He worked under Tibbs for years, and so I'm on the phone with him, and he said, "Man, I don't know if this is fake news or AI." He said, "But I'm seeing that Tibbs just got fired." He said, "Man, let me jump off." And it literally the other day when it came across the TV, I was on the phone with him. But some of the names, Mike Malone makes sense. He makes the most sense. He grew up. He's a New Yorker. Um, he's a very good coach, experienced. I mean, you think about it, you fire Tibbs, you better have something good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I know
Right.
Tibbs is hard. He can be hard on teams and players,
Yeah.
but you better have something good to come behind it. You can't come in with a guy who's not proven. And like
Right.
Budenholzer's one, Vogel's one. Those are all the retreads. Malone is the one that makes probably the most sense. Um, he probably makes the most sense. I mean, he's a New Yorker. He coached there. I mean, he started off his NBA career coaching in New York.
See.
Uh, he would love that job. Jeff Van Gundy was the other one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. That's what I heard. Yep. Yeah.
We would bring him back. But man, and like that ain't gonna be an easy job.
Yeah.
I mean, the expectations. Think about it, the expectations are stupid. You go to Game 7 or whatever it was, or Game
Yes.
6, and,
Yeah.
and the conference finals, and they fire you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's gonna be interesting. Like I said, I don't know who they're gonna bring in, man, but yeah, that's gonna be definitely very interesting. I don't understand. Yeah, I was shocked, but like you said, I mean, to fire him, they must have something in their head that they're gonna do because you can't just on a whim. You don't. Yeah, it just. But
They 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 have to have had that deal already pretty much done. They can't release it now because it doesn't look right.
it don't right. Yeah, the optics is
The
terrible.
optics are terrible.
Yeah,
So they'll wait some, but I mean you gotta think that they already got that done because
yeah,
it'd be crazy just to let the guy go and then be hoping. Like you don't do business like that. But that'll be
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, for sure. So y'all, this is Melvin Hunt. Melvin Hunt, my brother, basketball aficionado, coach, mentor. and obviously, and who cares about his players. Like I said, they don't care what you know until they know that you care.
That's a
You know,
fact.
and that's the real thing. We didn't get too much into that, but you gonna be on again. Yeah,
That's right.
USA basketball. Yeah, and I know you've done some things over where were you in Africa too. You did some things. Was
Yeah,
that the basketball beyond borders? You did
man. I,
that
I
thing?
I think I did 9 of those.
Yeah. So
China,
yeah,
China, Russia, Lithuania, Dominican
yeah,
Republic. Bruh, God has been he's been so kind
yeah,
to a brother from Tallulah. How about that?
yeah. Yes, yes, Tallulah, stand up.
Yeah, well, yes, sir. And
Yeah,
how about that?
yeah. It's funny. It's funny, man. 'Cause people down there thought I was from Tallulah.
For
They
real.
they they really really did.
Hey man, we
You
gave you the
know.
rights and the privilege. You have the rights and privileges for,
Yeah.
now a member. But people
Yes. Yes.
really thought you was from Tallulah, for real.
Man, listen. Yeah. I know we keep saying get up. I don't care. Look like Mother Jane, when I mother church, she passed some years back. Well, I love Mother Jane. We used to go serve her communion, and you got to go. You got to have a song. We walk up and say, okay, what we gonna sing?
What we
She
gonna say
said,
first?
but every time she would get the mic, she would sing the song. This might be my last time, and she
Uh-huh.
would say it. So that's I'm getting all this out, but this might be my last time.
Yeah.
But I just I just think about, man, what this game, just what, like I said, man. And like I was telling people, I said there are people who play basketball and they are hoopers. It's a different, because if you're a hooper, every day it's something. If you just throw away trash, you do shoot or roll.
I'm taking
you,
that contact.
yeah, you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, but about the Tallulah thing, I'm tell you something. Lonnie them, I think Lonnie played. I don't know if it was Carol. I thought it was a Monroe. Or no, it wasn't. I think it was Rabel. Well, I went to the game with Jimmy now,
Yeah.
and I don't. Jimmy could tell you who this dude was. This dude in the warm-ups, he had like a T-shirt. It looked dingy. He got in the second quarter. One lose, went baseline on one leg. I was like, who this? He's like some Capitol Hood, but then, but what's funny, at the end of quarters, when they go low four and had Lonnie up top and them fools flew that said, uh-oh, because they know Lonnie.
They knew what
Lonnie
it
was
was. They knew what it was. That's right.
man. I used to love that. I used to absolutely love that. That used to have me crying laughing. Because
That's hey, if you know, you know.
yes, sir, yes, sir. But like Baptist preachers got three closes. So I think I win a little more about three closes. Oh yeah, they get a
They
minimum
got
of three,
and
minimum
in
of three closes.
closing,
Yeah,
and in closing,
I ain't start hooping or nothing,
super
but 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 yeah, for sure. But again, y'all, this Melvin, my brother. Appreciate you, man. Appreciate your time. Tell the fam I said what's up. Much love to you, man.
do the same for me, man. Love you, man.
Yes, sir. Love you back.
You the best, boy.
All right, holla.
All right, man. Later.
Yep. So check it, y'all. Like I said, that's my man, Melvin. Like I said, he's done a lot of great things. Like I said, built a lot of relationships and continue to go strong. I just been blessed, man. Like I said, I just, but even just with them, I mean, everybody. I don't want y'all to think that's the only like great relationship I was blessed to have. It's other people at Grambling, like my man Chaka just moved to Dallas. I helped him drive down to Dallas. He got a new gig. We got a 30 plus year. Uh, man, I'm like the people that God has brought in my life. I am just so thankful. But it is what it is, and I am thankful for it. Like I said, this is the first two-parter. The first two-parter I ever did, and but like I said, I did not want to. I did not want to rush. I did not want to rush through this because it was so much I wanted to say about this man. And I'm gonna go ahead and say it. He and said, "Yeah, um, that's some bull. That's some bull. And you think about COVID is like an afterthought now. That's what's crazy. And people still dying of COVID too. I know people who have never got the shot, never got COVID, but that's my man. I know God still got great things for him. He's doing his thing at Baylor. But hey, much love to y'all. Y'all know what it is. Check me out. I haven't done a Friday Fable in a while. I haven't done a Friday Fable in a while. May do one. And like I always tell y'all, what I always tell y'all when it's time for me to go, I see you when I see you. Holla.
Many things going on in the world today. Every time Dick and Harry got something to say. But what they said ain't got no fabric to it. Yay takes and thoughts with dice straight through it. It's all about rumors and people feuding. If we're not uplifting, then what we doing? Yeah, they love the culture, yet they trying to wreck it. But are we ready to go hard to protect it? If we don't stand firm, then we're sure to fall. Are you ready to fight the stain and accept the call? Or it's all about dealerships and the mall?